Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description. It was dark around, not a single soul, only one candle lit the room. Somewhere in the distance steps were heard. They were getting closer and closer. The man raised his head and saw a male silhouette. I have a proposition for you, Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde tried to examine the man, but he couldn't. Every time Uzumaki opened his eyes, he felt incredible pain in them. Naruto didn't know how long he stayed in this place, but the pain in his whole body didn't go away. Kurama didn't respond, so he could only look at the ceiling and think about what happened and where he ended up. Having abandoned attempts to examine the stranger, the blonde stared at the floor. "Who are you? And where am I?" Uzumaki said monotonously. Well, I'll start with the fact that my name is Hikatsu Najikawa, and you are in Jiken no Kajiri, said Hikatsu. Okay, I'll explain now. Jiken no Kajiri is a place that separates the past, present, and future. This is the place where time stops, a kind of event horizon, and I am its eternal keeper. And anticipating your next question, I will answer directly. It was I who moved you to this place after death, the man said. He expected him to be surprised or something like that, but not a single muscle twitched on Naruto's face. He raised his head, but did not open his eyes. Why? What do you want from me? Believe me, I don't need anything from you. I just want to give you a gift. I've watched you a lot, Naruto. You helped people without sparing yourself. Even after your death, you again rushed into the battle for humanity. Even when the whole world hated you, you did not go over to the side of evil. You've been through a lot during this time, lost loved ones. And I want to give you a chance to fix everything, to start from scratch. You can change the course of events, prevent the last 2 wars and more. You can change the future. That is, Naruto guessed what he was getting at. There was surprise and a bit of misunderstanding on his face. I want to send you to the past, Uzumaki Naruto. This turn of events Naruto did not expect at all. He was very shocked. The blonde almost fell to the floor from such a statement, but then surprise was replaced by seriousness. And he asked the question that interested him now. What's the catch? It seems to me that this is too generous a gift. Oh, you're smart, but there's no catch here. Hagoromo would be proud of you, said Hikatsu. Did you know old man Rikudo? Uzumaki asked. Yes, but that's not the point now. I'll heal your wounds, and then we'll move you into the past. As you say, Hikatsu-san, Naruto said. Just let's do without these. San, and other tinsel, just Hikatsu, said the guardian and made a couple of seals. Naruto's bright green aura and wounds began to gradually heal. While I'm treating your wounds, you can ask me any questions you may have. Hikatsu, approximately what time period will I arrive? Well, my friend, I don't know about that, but definitely not later than the battle in the Valley of the End and not earlier than the final exams. Well, something like that. And yes, regarding the strength, Kurama will need to reinforce your chakra circulation system, but first you must free him again. He will retain the memory of what happened. And you will check everything else yourself. This is the first time I have done something like this for someone, answered Hikatsu. I see. By the way, with the fox I can't hear him and can't go down into the subconscious, Naruto said. I put him to sleep and blocked his subconscious. He needs to rest. He spent almost all his chakra. Just a little more and he would have died. But he would have been reborn, right? Uzumaki asked. He remembered Rikudo telling him that after death they are reborn after some time. Yes, you are right about that. But they will be reborn only if they want it, the man said with a bitter smile. Naruto understood the meaning of his words and grinned. Yeah, that fox fur coat probably wouldn't do it. He's too stubborn, even if I asked him. Yes. Possibly. So we have healed the wounds, now we can send you, said Hikatsu, canceling the technique. How do you feel? Better, Naruto answered, opening his eyes. The old Rinnegan was burning in them. Much better. Then we can get started. Are you ready? Yes. Repeat the seals after me, said Hikatsu and began to fold the seals. Naruto followed him, and when they folded the last seal, the blonde was enveloped in a white glow, and he began to disappear. Remember Naruto, everything is in your hands, said Hikatsu, and Naruto disappeared. The blonde's eyes darkened, his body froze, and he lost consciousness. Sensing danger, Naruto suddenly opened his eyes and dodged a piece of chalk flying at him. Taking a quick look around the room, Naruto realized that he was now in the academy, and the subject of danger was Iruka. Naruto! Stop sleeping! The sensei was indignant. The blonde was now experiencing a storm of emotions inside, but he tried to hide them. Feeling someone looking at him, Uzumaki turned towards the observer. It was Hinata. Catching the young man's gaze, the kunoichi blushed and turned away. Uzumaki only smiled at this, deciding to confess to her earlier than last time. Then he turned his gaze to Uchiha, who, as always, sat with a stone face. The blonde snorted and decided to kill him if he tried to escape, him and this snake. Where do such sadistic thoughts come from? Kurama spoke in his subconscious, which Naruto was not happy about. Has my schizophrenia really woken up? The young man said in surprise. You're a damn masochist. The fox snorted. What do you mean? The young man did not understand what the fox was talking about. Well, it wasn't me who died twice and then resurrected. Maybe you're a masochist and you get off on it. It's a shame I don't have many tails now, just like my strength. Kurama was indignant. Stop! How did you know that we are in the past? I'm not as stupid as you. I should have listened to the teacher. Tomorrow is the genin exam. Naruto snorted. Classes at the academy ended, and after receiving instructions from Iruka about the exam, the future shinobi went home. Naruto himself ran straight to the training ground. If only it works, if only it works. The boy repeated as if he were praying. He could have at least put up a barrier. Fuin, impenetrable barrier. It wasn't very good, of course, but at least it was something. He understood that everything had to be started from scratch. Well, almost everything. Not bad, the main thing is that you succeed. It will make our task much easier. I understand, Naruto said and made a concentration seal. After a couple of minutes he smiled and went down into the subconscious. Everything was there as before: pipes, water, a cage and a grumpy fox. Kurama stared at the blonde and bared his teeth. Well, Kurama, let's show them what we're made of, said the blonde, in whose eyes the usual Rinnegan was burning. Naruto trained until late at night. Even though he still had the Rinnegan, he couldn't keep it activated for long. After all, Kurama was still sealed, and the circulation system was weak. During training, Naruto was able to use almost half of his elemental techniques. He didn't even count on the Intan and Yotan techniques. True, the striking power of the techniques was 4 times weaker than before. This slightly disappointed Naruto, but the fox reassured him that with his current level of strength he would be able to tear any jonin to pieces. And this at 13, well, almost 14 years old. Uzumaki calmed down. He also needed to get his physical form in order and free Kurama, but for this he needed Geratora. Putting all this off until tomorrow, he went to bed. In the morning he was awakened by the persistent voice of the fox, who was trying to wake up his Jinchuriki. Reluctantly opening his eyes, Naruto descended into the subconscious with the goal of killing Kurama. Why? So? Scream! Uzumaki was indignant. To which the fox snorted and said, You have an exam today, and if you don't hurry you'll be late. I definitely forgot about him. Naruto hit himself on the head. Okay, go continue acting like a fool. It's not necessary, you can continue to act like an idiot. Although you are an idiot anyway, Kurama said calmly, but it doesn't matter, you don't have to hide part of your power, you could just learn some techniques yourself. After all, you dream of becoming Hokage, so you trained hard and so on. I'll still remind you of the idiot, but the main thing is not to overdo it and not to arouse suspicion about your abilities, Naruto said, pretending to be smart. What a great mind of the land of fire, get out of here, said the fox and threw the blonde out of the subconscious. What a torn rug, said the Jinchuriki and began to get ready. He did not want to be late. Having got ready in 10 minutes, Naruto went to the academy. Jumping out the window, he quickly galloped along the roofs. Uzumaki arrived on time, which surprised Iruka and the future genin. Not paying attention to this, he sat down at the last desk and began to wait his turn. So, our exam will be held in 3 stages. The first stage is henge, the second is clones, the third is ninjutsu. So, let's go to the training ground, said the teacher and headed for the exit. Going outside, Naruto jumped onto a tree branch and began to wait for his turn. He was now little concerned about the exam, but nevertheless he glanced at the exam. It was Sasuke's turn. The blonde did not even look, because he already understood that he would pass it. Uzumaki Naruto, said the teacher. Naruto jumped from the branch and went to the center of the training ground. Along the way he heard the students whispering, something like, "He won't pass," and so on. Uzumaki smiled at his thoughts and got ready. Coming out to the center of the training ground, the Jinchuriki stopped. Henge, Naruto easily transformed into the third Hokage, which surprised Irika. Well, okay, now clones, the blue-eyed man crossed his fingers. Shadow cloning technique. Having summoned 30 clones, he sent Irika's jaw kissing the ground. Naruto looked at him indifferently. You see, this is all the influence of the Uchiha. You need to communicate with them less, otherwise you will start to adopt their manners, the fox said instructively. Snorting at the fox's words and seeing a nod from the sensei, Uzumaki began to fold the seals. Futon, vacuum projectile, a small ball that he released left a neat hole in the tree. Silence, no one expected this from a talentless hooligan, so the blonde calmly walked up to the table and, taking the bandage, jumped back onto the tree. The others didn't interest him, and he decided to take a little nap. As soon as Naruto closed his eyes, he heard the sensei's voice. Team distribution is tomorrow at 9 o'clock, try not to be late. After listening to the sensei, the genin began to disperse and Naruto followed their example, deciding to go to the training ground. On the way, he looked into a Chiraku, because he did not have time to have breakfast. Having eaten 5 portions, he went to train, satisfied and full. While he was walking, Kurama had already made a schedule of his training, although the blonde was not happy, but it was useless to argue with the fox. Upon arrival at the training ground, Uzumaki immediately began to cut circles, while not forgetting to put on the weights that he acquired after Ichiraku. After jogging, the Jinchuriki began to do push-ups at the same time the fox talked to him. Let's do it this way, 2 more approaches, about 20 times. Then we'll try to summon Geratora. He's been giving orders here, Naruto said, making his final approach. Okay, take a break, and then we'll summon this toad. Why do we need it? I remember a lot of seals, first we'll try them. Well, and if it doesn't work then we'll try to summon, Naruto said, lying under the tree and went down into the subconscious. Well, shall we try? Asked Uzumaki, stretching his arms. Well, go ahead, take a risk, Kurama said incredulously, looking sideways at his Jinchuriki. But I can't vouch for the consequences, the blonde grinned. The fox just wanted to say that he changed his mind, but it was too late. Naruto began to quickly fold the seals. Fuin, Uzumaki technique removing the seal. Oddly enough, he succeeded. The cage disappeared. Kurama was happy and started running around the hall. Naruto smiled weakly and lost consciousness. After all, he had much less strength than before. The fox carefully picked him up and laid him on his tails. Oh Naruto, you don't change, Kurama said and fell asleep. The first rays of the sun illuminated Konoha. Life in it began to boil again. Merchants opened their shops. Someone hurried to work. Somewhere in the village, in one of the many houses, the future Hokage of the village hidden in a leaf slept. Today was an important day for the graduates of the academy. Distribution into teams, for everyone, but not for him. He knew everything in advance, knew what would happen in the next 2 weeks, unless of course he changed the course of events. Waking up, Naruto wanted to get up. A wave of hellish pain passed through his body, from which the blonde even screamed. Overcoming the pain, Naruto sat on the edge of the bed and went down into the subconscious. The fox was sleeping, sprawled in the middle of the hall. After futile attempts to wake Kurama, Uzumaki decided to resort to extreme measures. Fortunately, there was a lot of water in this room. Kurame! With each word the blonde formed a seal, and now the last seal remained. Well, you asked for it. Sutton, wave! A small wave flew at the fox, but it was enough for the fox to wake up. Jumping up as if scalded, the fox began to curse his Jinchuriki with a 3-story curse, so much so that Naruto's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Having finished his tirade and calmed down, Kurama lay down, and resting his head on his paws, looked questioningly at the blonde. What? It's my own fault. I haven't been able to wake you up for half an hour. Well, that's no reason to pour water on me. The fox was indignant. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders and remembered why he came, asked Kurama a question. What's wrong with me? I can't even move normally. Oh, sorry, I completely forgot to heal you. After you passed out, I slightly increased your chakra circulation system, the nine-tailed answered. Then it's clear. Treat me a little, because there's more than half an hour left before the distribution of the chud, said Uzumaki and came out of the subconscious. Naruto waited for the fox to heal his body and went to the shower. After having his favorite instant ramen for breakfast, Uzumaki went to the academy. Arriving, he collapsed at the last desk and began to wait, although what's the point of waiting if you already know which team you'll end up on? Iruka called out the numbers and lineups of the teams, as well as their senseis. Everything was as before. He was on a team with Sakura and Sasuke. Naruto, knowing that Kakashi would be late for a few hours, decided to chat with the fox. Kurama, stop sleeping. The blonde yelled at the whole subconscious. Why? Yell. Like that. The nine-tailed one said the words, and at the last he shouted so loudly that the Jinchuriki was slammed into the wall. You wanted something, the fox said more calmly. I just came to talk. Sensei won't be here for 2 hours, Naruto said with a sigh. Then you should talk to your teammates, Kurama suggested. Well, of course, there's no point in talking to the Uchiha. He only thinks about revenge, and Sakura only thinks about Sasuke, so I'd rather torture you, Naruto said, rubbing his hands. Ha, you're not in that position anymore, Kurama said with a grin. You said that you increased my chakra reserve. What is it now? Uzumaki asked the puzzled fox. Well, now he's about the same as when you were 16. He's flying. The fox understood his plan when he activated the Rinnegan. Well, Rug, who called me an idiot? Naruto said and began to stretch his arms. Kurama laughed nervously and was about to run, but Bansho Tenin. An hour and a half later, Naruto and Kurama were lying exhausted. The blonde had a black eye. His clothes were slightly torn. Kurama was slightly burnt. Yes, it's fun, said the fox. Yes, we'll have to repeat it sometime, said the blonde, getting up from the floor. Well, I have to go. He came out of the subconscious just in time. Kakashi appeared in the doorway. Having cast some unfriendly glance at the team, he suggested going out onto the roof. Well, tell us about yourself, said the ash-haired man. Maybe you can set an example for us, Sakura suggested. Okay, my name is Hatake Kakashi. I am a jonin of Konohagakure. There are many things I don't like and few things I love. My dreams won't be interesting to you, and you don't need to know my goals, said the jonin. What a great conspirator, the blonde said quietly. What did you say? Asked Kakashi, his eyes flashing unkindly. I'm telling you, sensei, it's an interesting biography, Uzumaki said. Hatake chuckled and looked at Sakura. Now it's your turn. My name is Haruno Sakura. I am a genin of Konoha. My dream is to become a medic. I love, she looked at Uchiha. Well, what do you hate or dislike? Naruto grinned at these words. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are many things that I don't like, and few that I like. My dream, although it's most likely a goal. I must kill one person. Sasuke was as unperturbed as always. Sakura looked at Uchiha with fear, and Kakashi looked at him seriously, realizing who he was talking about. Okay, now you're a blondie, Naruto snorted. You yourself haven't gone far. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I love ramen and many other things. My dream is to become Hokage, and my goal is self-improvement. So, I want to do a little test on you. Tomorrow at 5 in the morning to the 10th training ground, without delays, Kakashi said and disappeared. Naruto did the same, leaving his teammates perplexed. The blonde appeared already in his apartment. Well, the fun days have begun. Naruto woke up early in the morning, but not from the alarm clock or from Kurama waking him up. He woke up thinking about her, from the one who had captured his heart forever. Uzumaki understood that the time had not yet come. He would confess to her after the mission in the Land of Waves. For a start, the blonde decided to tear off his full mask. He of course understood that this would cause a storm of questions that he would have to answer. But all this faded into the background Without her, Uzumaki's soul became sad. He felt lonely, despite the fact that he had friends, foxes. Getting up a little in a depressed mood, Naruto went to take a shower. After breakfast, he went to the room. Naruto took out a small scroll from under the bed in which his new clothes were stored. Having unsealed the clothes, he began to change. Now he was dressed in a black jacket with a whirlpool sign on the back and black pants, and the same sandals. Naruto also put on bracers with metal inserts and an orange cloak, at the bottom of which were depicted black flashes of fire. Fully equipped, Uzumaki moved out to the training ground. Naruto arrived at the training ground at 7 o'clock. As he expected, Kakashi was not there, but there was a dissatisfied Sasuke and an angry Sakura. Noticing the blonde, she began to shout something like, "Where have you been? Have you decided to change your image?" Sasuke asked, looking at Naruto. "A little. While Kakashi is not here, I want you to listen to me. It's about this test," said Naruto. Seeing something like agreement, he continued. "Most likely it will be a test of teamwork, and I have a small plan." 2 hours later, Sensei finally showed up. "Are you late, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura was indignant. "It's just that." The ash-haired man began to justify himself. Yes, this should be a very interesting story. But maybe we should start?" the blonde suggested. "Good. So, you have to take these bells from me before noon. Is everything clear?" asked Kakashi, showing the bells. "But there are only 2 of them." "That's right. Whoever doesn't get it will go back to the academy. Time has started." Sakura and Sasuke disappeared into the thicket, but Naruto remained standing in place. "And why are you still here, rule number?" Naruto interrupted him. Yes, I understand the rules are very important, but I want to test what I am capable of," said the Jinchuriki. Well, go ahead," Kakashi said, taking out a book. "If I were you, I would be more careful," Naruto said, making seals, and when Kakashi saw them, he almost dropped the book. "Ha, it looks like the fool's mask is broken," the fox said in his subconscious. Katon, the great fire dragon. Yes, neither Kakashi nor the rest of Team 7 expected this. Having somehow dodged, the Jonin realized that it was better to concentrate on the battle. When the shinobi landed, the blonde was already out of sight. "Yeah, this guy is deaf." Naruto appeared behind Kakashi, raising a kunai charged with wind chakra for a strike. The one-eyed man had to dodge. The shinobi jumped to the side, but Sasuke was already waiting for him, but he did not use the technique. "Kakashi-sensei, you're trapped," Naruto said. The Jonin was surrounded on 4 sides. On one side Sasuke, on the other Naruto, and on the remaining 2 his clones. "And what will you do?" said the teacher, but there was no need to wait for an answer. Everyone had already started making seals. "Katon, big fireball." Sasuke named the technique. "Futon, vacuum wave." "Raiten, discharge." "Doton, flow of dirt." Naruto and his clones called the techniques. Kakashi was confused. He did not expect this from the newly minted genin. He had only one way out: to jump up. He did so. But at the top a surprise awaited him in the form of a huge cloud of shurikens sent by Sakura. Having made a substitution, he appeared in front of Naruto and was just about to attack. But at that moment the blonde raised his hand towards Kakashi. His eyes began to change. "Shinra Tensei," the Jinchuriki said quietly, and the ash-haired man was thrown back and slammed into a boulder that was nearby. At that moment, Uchiha quickly took the bells and threw them to Naruto, who in turn let go of his sensei and turned off his Rinnegan. Meanwhile, Sakura came out to them. Uzumaki quickly threw the bells to them. His teammates stared at him in bewilderment, as did his sensei. "What? I can go to the academy for another year," said the blonde. "But that was your plan, we just helped you," Sakura said. No one will go to the academy, you all passed." "This test was about teamwork," said the Jonin. Everyone looked at each other and a smile crept onto their faces. Sasuke was no exception. "But with you, Naruto, I would like to talk separately." "Okay, but let's do it at 6 in the evening in the Hokage's office, he'll be interested too." "Good. Tomorrow at 8 we have our first mission, no lateness," said the shinobi and disappeared. "Who would talk?" the fox said in his subconscious. "Maybe we should celebrate at Ichiraku?" Naruto suggested, to which everyone readily agreed. Walking through the streets of Konoha, the 7th team talked cheerfully. Even the emotionless Sasuke got into a good mood. And then in one of the alleys Naruto saw Hinata. To hell with it all. I'll catch up with you, said the blonde and disappeared around the corner. Finding the girl with his eyes again, he approached her, which surprised her a little. After all, she didn't expect him to approach her and blushed. Hinata, I need to talk to you. Hinata, I need to talk to you, Naruto said seriously. The poor girl didn't know what to answer and tried with all her might not to faint. Oh, okay, the brunette stuttered. Hinata, well, damn, it was easier the first time. Uzumaki whispered the last words. Hinata, I love you. Hyuga fainted as last time. The blonde managed to catch her, not letting her get to know the ground better. Taking her in his arms, Naruto moved to the training ground. Putting Hinata under a tree, he sent a clone to his friends. Sitting down next to her, Naruto began to admire her. He liked every feature of her. He began to remember what she was like, or rather, he inadvertently remembered how he lost her. From these thoughts, he clenched his fists with force, and the Rinnegan with 3 Tomo on the first circle lit up in his eyes. And at that moment Hinata woke up. She was a little scared of the blonde. Noticing this, Naruto deactivated the Rinnegan. Sorry, I scared you. And no, it was just unexpected. What's wrong with your eyes? I'll tell you later. Then smiling slyly Uzumaki continued. Do you remember what I said? Or should I repeat it? So it wasn't a dream? The brunette said, more affirmatively than questioningly. No, Hina, this is not a dream, Naruto said smiling. I love you too, Naruto. Hinata hugged Naruto and buried her face in his chest. The blonde slightly pushed her away from himself, and came closer and kissed her tenderly. Of course there's no point in asking, but I'll ask, Naruto said, moving away from the girl a little. Will you become my girlfriend? At that moment, the girl became slightly sad and moved away from Naruto. My father won't allow it, he's too strict with me, said Hinata, looking at the ground. Naruto, without thinking twice, pulled her towards him and kissed her again. The blonde, unable to hold himself back for a moment, fell on his back, dragging Hyuga with him. The couple laughed merrily. They lay like that for a couple more minutes, looking at each other. Then Uzumaki spoke. Don't worry about your father, I'll talk to him. Are you sure he will listen to you? Will he even want to talk to you? Hinata asked. Believe me, he will listen, the blonde said seriously, looking the girl in the eyes. I believe you, but why are you so sure? You don't even really know him, Hinata said, also looking into Naruto's eyes. You know, sometimes I can be very persuasive, even too much. Uzumaki smiled and kissed the young Hyuga. They sat like that almost until the evening and, deciding not to postpone the conversation with Hinata's father, they moved to the estate. The girl denied it all the way, saying that nothing would work out, but it was already too late, since they approached the estate. When they went inside, Hayashi was waiting for them. Seeing her father, Hinata grabbed the blonde's arm tightly and pressed herself closer to him. Seeing them, the head of the clan frowned and wanted to say something, but the blonde did not let her do it. Hayashi-sama, I'll tell you straight. Hinata and I love each other, but you won't let us meet just like that. Am I right? Naruto asked. Yes, you're right, Hyuga answered. I have a proposal for you, Naruto said and began to wait for his reaction. And what is it? Asked Hayashi. He was starting to like the blonde's persistence. Sparring, if I win, then you allow us to meet, Naruto said, shocking everyone who was nearby, but not a single muscle moved on Uzumaki's face. And you're sure you can win? Aren't you a bit too confident, Naruto? He was definitely starting to be amused by this turn of events. I'm sure, Naruto said. Okay, let's go to the training ground, Hayashi said and headed towards the training ground, which was in their possession. Naruto and Hinata followed him. Uzumaki and Hyuga stood opposite each other, and Hinata and the bewildered Neji stood a little further. Naruto took a stance, taking his right leg back, and slightly putting his left forward and bent at the knee. He spread his arms in opposite directions, left to the right, and right to the left. The blonde wanted to quickly end this fight, since he needed to make it to the Hokage. Hayashi took the usual stance of their clan. The judge, who was a member of the Hyuga clan, waved, indicating that the fight had begun. Naruto suddenly jumped forward, spreading his arms to the sides. Chains flew out from under the ground, which in the blink of an eye fettered the bewildered Hayashi, but the blonde did not stop there. Appearing next to him, Naruto put his hand to the chains. Fuin, concealing powers. The chains that were on Hyuga disappeared, and he himself fell to his knees. At this time, Hinata and Niji ran up to them. Don't worry, Hayashi-sama. In 5 minutes you will be able to use chakra again, Naruto said in a calm voice. The leader was in deep shock like everyone else. Some genin was able to beat the leader of the strongest clan. If only you knew who this genin was. So, do you agree? Naruto asked. Yes, I agree, with great pleasure, said Hayashi smiling. Now Uzumaki himself was surprised, but did not show it. Thank you, said the blonde and helped Hayashi up. And now please excuse me, the Hokage is waiting for me. Having kissed Hinata, the blonde disappeared. Naruto appeared in the third's office. He was animatedly discussing something with Kakashi, and they did not notice the appearance of the blonde. Hello Hokage-sama, Kakashi-sensei. The named ones turned sharply towards the voice. They were surprised that they could not notice his presence, especially the ash-haired one. So you want to know about my power? Naruto asked, looking at the two shinobi, in whose eyes the Rinnegan with 3 tomo was burning. So you want to know about my power? Naruto asked, looking at the two shinobi, in whose eyes the Rinnegan with 3 tomo was burning. From what he saw, even Sarutobi's pipe fell out of his mouth, and Kakashi simply burned Naruto with his gaze. Uzumaki walked lightly to the sofa and sat down, began to wait for the two to come to their senses. They didn't have to wait long. The Hokage, having more or less come to his senses, began to talk. Naruto, Kakashi told me about the techniques you used during the test and about the metamorphoses with the eyes. Now I understand how you used them. You awakened the Rinnegan, said the third. Yes, you're right, said the blonde. But how did you do it? The copy ninja asked. Naruto sighed heavily, but decided to tell the story he had made up with the fox. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. So, where should I start? I'll start with the fact that I lied to you for 13 years and played the fool so that no one would find out about my power. A lot of problems could have arisen because of it. You might ask, what kind of power is this? I'll start with the fact that when I was 6, I awakened the Rinnegan. At first, I didn't know what it was, but the 9-tailed fox explained it to me. I awakened it when I was being beaten, and this happened after the fox's chakra mixed with mine. Gradually, I began to learn the abilities of my eyes, watched the training of shinobi and copied their techniques. After 3 years, I mastered the 4 elements. These were fire, wind, earth, and lightning. I also learned to create some techniques, but they were not very strong, since at that time I had not yet tamed the 9-tailed fox. The story was interrupted by Kakashi's shocked voice. So you've already tamed him now? Don't interrupt, about a year ago. So where was I? Oh yeah. I started looking for information about the Uzumaki clan. They were masters of seals and I was interested. I found a couple of seal techniques, and then based on them I created several of my own. With my eyes it wasn't difficult, but the problem remained the same. I didn't have enough chakra. And I made a kind of contract with the fox, according to which he gives me chakra, and doesn't use his eyes on him. Just recently, water finally gave in to me. And today my eyes underwent a small metamorphosis. You should have noticed it, Naruto said. You must be talking about the 3 tomo, Sarutobi suggested. Uzumaki nodded. We must give the third his due. Not a single muscle on his face twitched during the entire story, which cannot be said about Kakashi, whose eyes grew wider and wider with each word. The Hokage looked out the window. The sun was slowly setting behind the horizon. In about an hour it would start to get dark. He turned his gaze to Naruto. I want to see your strength myself. Now we will go to the training ground and fight Kakashi, one-on-one. The Jonin and Jinchuriki looked at the Hokage in surprise, but did not argue. Arriving at the 7th training ground, they again looked questioningly at the Hokage, but he only nodded to begin the duel. Sighing heavily, Kakashi turned to Naruto, who was already ready. Ninjutsu or taijutsu? Asked the blonde. Your choice, the ash-haired man answered. Without thinking twice, Naruto began to form seals, and with such speed that the sensei simply could not keep up with them without the Sharingan. Futon, air cutter! Air blades flew at the one-eyed man, but he easily stopped them using a large fireball. Okay, how do you like this? Uzumaki created 4 clones who began to perform seals, and at that moment Kakashi opened his Sharingan. Doton, tectonic shift. Katon, dragon breath. Suton, geyser. Raton, lightning discharge. Futon, raisin shuriken. The clones and Naruto himself pronounced the names of the techniques. Such a bouquet of elements flew at the Sharingan that he simply did not have time to do anything except try to dodge the attacks. He succeeded. Well, the almost fire technique still slightly caught him. Should we continue, or is that enough? Naruto asked. Otherwise, sensei won't last that long. Uzumaki looked at the out-of-breath Kakashi, who nodded affirmatively. No, that's enough. Naruto, you're free, and I need to talk to Kakashi about something, the Hokage said thoughtfully. Having said goodbye, Uzumaki disappeared, and the third, turning to the Jonin, said thoughtfully, I'm thinking of sending him to the ANBU. What do you think, Kakashi? Asked the third. I think we should first check how he will behave in a real battle, Kakashi said. Yes, you're right, but it's too early to give you difficult missions. Your team has just formed. I think he'll be a good replacement for me, said Sarutobi, and headed towards the residence. All week Naruto and his team caught cats, weeded the garden, delivered letters. Their patience snapped, and they finally begged the Hokage for a C-rank mission. You will have to accompany the architect to the Land of Waves so that he can complete the construction of the bridge. The mission is not difficult, there should be no problems, said the Hokage. And at that moment the architect entered the office. Casting a contemptuous glance at the team of genin, he turned to the Hokage. And these brats will guard me? Aren't they too weak? Hello, Tazuna-san. I assure you, they are strong shinobi, said the third, smoking his pipe. Naruto turned to Tazuna and said in a serious voice, This is just a simple escort. You won't be attacked by bandits or Nuke Nin, right? That would already be an A-rank mission. The bridge builder involuntarily shuddered. I think it's time for us to move, Kakashi said, and they headed towards the main gates of Konoha. They moved in silence. Only occasionally Sakura pestered Tazuna with questions. Jumping from branch to branch, Uzumaki noticed a small puddle under them. He immediately understood what was going on, since he was going on this mission for the second time. The blonde looked at Kakashi, he nodded and fell behind a little, and at that moment 2 people appeared from the puddle. Naruto quickly got his bearings, dove down and stood opposite the attackers. One of them immediately attacked him with a chain, but the weapon never reached its target. Divine punishment, the shinobi was thrown back a good 10 meters. Without wasting time, Uzumaki moved to them and knocked out the attackers with precise blows. The architect, along with Sasuke and Sakura, stood with stunned faces. Kakashi approached Naruto and looked at the attackers. His fears were confirmed. They were mercenaries. Tazuna-san, why didn't you tell us that you were being hunted by shinobi? Our mission was simply to protect us from random attacks by bandits, the ash-haired man said, looking at the architect. Right now, the category of this mission is at least rank B. But it was supposed to be just protection, until you finished construction. If we had known that you were being hunted by ninja, this mission would have been moved to a different category. I'm sure you had your own reasons for not telling us everything, but this attitude creates problems for us. We are no longer obligated to protect you now. You are right, now you are not obliged to protect me. It is just that one very dangerous person is hunting me. You most likely know him. His name is Gato. He has set his sights on our country, and using all possible methods, quickly seized control of our fleet. The only thing he is afraid of is the completion of the bridge, said the bridge builder. And since you are building the bridge, Gato decided to remove you, Naruto concluded. But why did you hide this when you hired us? Kakashi asked. It's very simple, Kakashi-sensei. The Land of Waves is very poor and they wouldn't have enough money to pay for a higher rank. Am I right? Naruto suggested. Yes, you're right. I understand that you're no longer obliged to protect me. No, we will continue the mission. Your country needs help. We will protect you until the construction is finished. Right, sensei? Naruto looked at Kakashi with his Rinnegan. He had no choice but to agree with him. With a heavy sigh, the one-eyed man turned to Tazuna. Okay, we will continue the mission, he said, and they continued on their way. Soon they reached the land of waves. They walked through the forest to the architect's house. Everything was quiet and calm, except for the huge cleaver that was flying straight at them. Get down! Kakashi shouted, but it wasn't necessary, as Naruto sent him back with a hand movement. Could someone really have blocked my decapitator? Said the shinobi, half of whose face was covered by a mask. Zabuza Momochi, also known as the Demon of the Hidden Mist, was one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, a master of silent killing. The ash-haired man said. I see you've heard of me, Hatake Kakashi, or Copy Ninja. The man who copied over 1,000 techniques. Copy Ninja Kakashi, Zabuza said. It was very nice to meet you, but I have to kill this old man. Dream, Naruto said. Kakashi-sensei? Be careful. Hatake understood what the blonde wanted. Uzumaki stood in front of the swordsman and, activating the Rinnegan with 3 tomo, prepared for battle. Momochi laughed when he saw the blonde. You want me to fight this brat? You're too inattentive, Zabuza, the Jinchuriki said, moving almost right up to the renegade. Before he could react, Momochi received a Rasengan to the solar plexus, but it was just a water clone. You are not such a simple boy, said the shinobi, standing on the river, Nimpo, concealing fog. The fog began to thicken, and the fog demon disappeared from sight, and soon the fog covered the 7th team. So, the master of silent killing, huh? Naruto said, closing his eyes. Well then we'll play hide and seek. Senpo, sure no Kaige. Having named the technique, Naruto disappeared just like the swordsman. Sakura with Sasuke and Kakashi surrounded the architect, but even the Sharingan did not help the Jonin. The silence that stood in the area greatly aggravated the situation. Suddenly, there was a whistle of air being cut. Turning around at the sound, Kakashi noticed Momochi's cleaver, which was half a meter away from them. He did not have time to do anything, but at that moment something hit the cleaver, and it flew away. You're not a bad kid, Zabuza's voice came out of nowhere. This scared the bridge builder and the genin. Kakashi frowned. He didn't know if Uzumaki could handle it or not, but he had to trust him. Silence fell again, but not for long. You're too careless, Zabuza. You thought I'd notice your accomplice in the forest. Naruto's voice was heard from all sides, giving Zabuza and everyone else goosebumps. Combined with the impenetrable fog and silence that surrounded them, it sounded very frightening. What have you done to Haku, puppy? Roared the demon of the hidden mist, but did not reveal his location. Nothing yet, but that's for now, Naruto said, and then added, I'm tired of this, stop hiding. Futon, the rise of the winds. A sharp gust of strong wind dispersed all the fog, revealing the swordsman's location. He was sitting not far from the shinobi, on a tree branch, trying to find the blonde. And finally he succeeded. Uzumaki was standing under the tree, almost opposite him. Then Momochi noticed that the blonde was not alone there. He was right. Haku was lying next to him under the tree. The demon boiled with anger. Jumping from the tree, he picked up his decapitator and directed his furious gaze at the blonde. What did you do to Haku? Momochi's anger knew no bounds. He was ready to kill anyone for this boy. I told you, there's nothing yet. You will pay for this. Zabuza shouted, thrusting his sword into the ground, and began to make seals. Sutin, water dragon. A huge dragon, which was made of water, flew out of the river that was nearby and rushed towards Uzumaki. You're repeating yourself. Katon, big fireball. The technicians met and destroyed each other, but they didn't stop there. Jumping onto the water surface, the swordsmen began to form seals with lightning speed. Sutin, tsunami. A huge amount of water rose into the air, which rushed like a wave towards the shinobi. There were only a few meters left to the first target, which was Naruto, who quickly formed the seals of the technique, from which Kakashi's jaw almost dropped, thanks to the mask. Katon, Jiukei Mekyaku. An unimaginably huge wall of fire collided with the wave and simply swept it out of its way and was now advancing on the swordsman. Naruto understood that Zabuza was no longer there and would not be caught, but this was exactly what he needed. He could no longer continue using such techniques, although his chakra reserve had increased, but he was not what he was before, so he only had enough chakra for a couple of techniques. You remember the plan, you shouldn't kill them, the fox said mentally. Yes, I know, after all, I developed this plan. Now I need to find him. I only have enough chakra for these 2 techniques, and I won't be able to maintain the Rinnegan soon. Naruto mentally conducted a dialogue with Kurama and continued to look for Zabuza, but he didn't have to search for long. The swordsman was opposite him. From the contact of techniques, everything in the area was covered in thick steam. Without wasting time, the swordsman attacked the Jinchuriki. The blonde somehow dodged the crushing blows of the headless one, because he no longer had a katana, and he was not able to summon the staff with Gudadama now. This dance continued, which sometimes turned into taijutsu and ninjutsu, but only on Momochi's part, lasted for about 10 minutes. When Uzumaki finally got fed up with this, he instantly moved to Zabuza and, activating the second stage of the Rinnegan, looked him in the eyes. Senpo, Jiken no Sakami. Zabuza and Naruto found themselves in an incomprehensible place. Everything around was painted in white tones. The space was completely empty. The swordsman, thinking that it was an illusion, tried to get out of it, but it was all in vain. You don't have to try. This isn't an illusion, it's something like another dimension. Time flows differently here. 1 day here is equal to 1 second in the real world, Naruto said, which caused complete bewilderment in Momochi. And why did you move us here? Zabuza asked. It's very simple, I need to talk to you, the blonde replied. And about what? You do understand that by killing the old man, you will ruin the entire country. Why do you need it? Oh well, of course, money, so I will pay you twice as much if you leave him alone and carry out my order. So what? Said the Jinchuriki, making the demon think. This offer puzzled him a little. On the one hand there is an advantage, he will get more money, and on the other, can he trust this boy? Zabuza stood for a couple of minutes thinking about Naruto's offer, then he decided to agree. If I agree, what guarantees do I have that you'll pay me the money and not turn in the Konoha Anbu later? And secondly, where would an ordinary genin get such a sum of money? Momochi asked the questions that interested him. There are no guarantees, but what guarantees did Gato give you? Will he pay you? That's it, there are no guarantees, you can only take my word for it, and as for the money, I am the son of the 4th Hokage and believe me, he left me a large fortune, Uzumaki answered, which made the swordsman think again. What should I do? The demon of the hidden mist asked. Naruto was surprised and smiled, he didn't expect him to agree so quickly. The essence of the mission is to obtain information about the location of one person. Uzumaki was interrupted by the swordsman. Is that all? Isn't it too easy? Zabuza was surprised by such an easy task. If only it were that simple. This man is a member of a well-known organization called Akatsuki. That's the problem, I could do it myself, but the problem is in the village, I can't leave it yet, Uzumaki said with a sigh. Sitting down in the lotus position. What are his signs? Zabuza asked and, repeating after the blonde, sat down, placing the cleaver on his knees. Like all members of this organization, he wears a black cloak with red clouds, and his face is covered by an orange spiral mask with a hole for his right eye. His name or nickname is Tobi, the rest is unknown to me. Naruto finished describing the supposed target. Momochi looked at him skeptically. Uzumaki sighed heavily, but he couldn't tell everything he knew about Obito. Yes, I understand there is little information, but this is all I know and the amount that I will give you is also not small. So think, you have time while we are here, Naruto said, standing up. There's not much information. I've heard about this organization, and about their fighting power. Spying on them is tantamount to suicide. But I'll accept your offer, Uzumaki Naruto. How much time do I have to get information? Naruto rejoiced when Momochi agreed. You have 2 months, that should be enough time, said the blonde. Okay. I have only 2 questions for you. What happened to Haku and how can we disappear quietly? The swordsman asked the questions of interest. Haku is fine, I just knocked him out, and as for disappearing, I have one technique that will help us a lot. As soon as we leave here I will use it. But what should we do with Gato? He can most likely hire someone else, answered Naruto to Momochi's question. Or maybe he'll show up himself with his gang, Zabuza suggested. Perhaps. It's time for us to go back, said the Jinchuriki and made a concentration seal. The space disappeared, and they appeared in the place where they fought. Quickly getting his bearings, Naruto used the flight of the Thunder God. Fortunately, Kurama managed to save up some chakra while they were in another dimension. He appeared almost at the same second as he disappeared. Having thrust Haku into Zabuza's hands without saying a word, he began to make a series of seals, and when the last seal remained, the blonde finally spoke. "You will appear on the border of fire, and then you will manage on your own. And by the way, you might feel a little sick." Roikodainadankai. Naruto used the technique and those two disappeared and he himself began to fold seals again with lightning speed. "Well, I need to quickly cover my tracks before Kakashi finds me. The main thing is that I have enough chakra." "Make it more identical, not like when you tried to give yourself up for D." Kurama boomed. "Yes, I know, don't remind me about it." Senpo Amurekawari. Senpo Amurekawari. In front of Naruto, on the ground, the outlines of two people began to form. Soon it was possible to recognize them. They were exact copies of Haku and Zabuza. When the fake bodies of the two missing nin formed, the blonde decided to dispel the fog that formed from the contact of techniques. Once again looking at the bodies and making sure that he did everything correctly, Naruto began to fold the seals. Futon, Jusho Karai. Gusts of wind quickly dispersed the fog in the area and Naruto was able to see the location of the team with the bridge builder, although he already knew their approximate location. When they got a view of what was happening, they saw a picture that no one could understand. How a simple genin could defeat one of the 7 swordsmen, albeit a former one. Kakashi stood and watched calmly. He began to understand how strong Naruto was, but the jonin also understood that this was not all his strength. Sakura looked shocked from Uzumaki to the renegades. Even Uchiha lost his composure and was openly stunned by what was happening. Naruto, of course, told them that he was only playing the role of a fool and did not show all his strength, but to such an extent. "Why you killed them?" the pink-haired girl managed to say, her face turning pale. "I had no choice, they didn't want to give up," Naruto said, making a more dejected expression on his face and looking at his sensei with his own eyes. Kakashi nodded and said, "You did the right thing, Naruto. You were on a mission to protect Tazuna-san and your friends." "But it's still inhumane to just go and kill someone," Sakura persisted. "I have the same opinion as you, Sakura, but if I hadn't done this, they would have killed me, and then you. Maybe you're right." "What should we do with them?" Sasuke said, putting on his mask of imperturbability again. "I suggest we seal them for now," the Jinchuriki suggested. "I agree," Kakashi said and approached the bodies of the renegades. Having sealed them, they moved on. They reached the architect's house without incident. After resting a bit after the journey, towards evening, Kakashi decided to train the genin and coming out to the edge of the forest, he began to explain the essence of the training. "The training consists of chakra control. You must climb a tree without a hand," said the sensei and calmly walked towards the tree and with the same steps began to climb vertically along the tree trunk. "You must direct a certain amount of chakra to your feet to attach to the tree bark. But also if you direct too little chakra you will fall down, too much the tree bark will crack and you will not hold on, the result is the same. Therefore, you must find its balance. Take kunai and mark your progress." "Kakashi-sensei, can you help me with something?" Naruto said, standing upside down on a tree branch. No one was even surprised. "And in what way?" "I have problems with the water element," Uzumaki shrugged. "Okay, you two train, and we'll go to the river," the copy ninja said and headed towards the river with Uzumaki. When they reached a small river, they went onto the surface of the water and began to talk. "What exactly is it that you can't do with water techniques?" Kakashi asked. "It's given to me, but not all techniques work out more or less normally." "Well, except for one, for some reason it works out perfectly," said Uzumaki. "And what is this technique?" asked Sensei, showing that he was waiting for her demonstration. Naruto nodded and jumped away from Sensei, simultaneously making seals. Suten Akuma Shurkai. The water in the river acquired a dark shade, almost black. Something similar between a dragon and a snake flew out from under the thickness of the water. It was the same color as the water, the eyes glowed yellow. Having made one circle around the blonde, so that he was surrounded by his body, the head of the creature was above Naruto and looked at Kakashi. Steam was coming out of the mouth of this giant. It looked a little scary. Just at this time Sasuke and Sakura came out to the river. They were fascinated by this sight, both beautiful and scary at the same time. Uzumaki pointed his hand towards the forest. At the behest of the blonde's hand, the dragon rushed forward and, not quite reaching the forest, rose up, and having made a semicircle, rushed back into the river. A couple of seconds after the dragon-like snake entered the water with a big splash, it took its original form. After showing Naruto a couple of Suiton techniques, which he easily repeated, they went back to the bridge builder's house. Tomorrow might be a tough day. Note to the chapter. Senpo, Amarekawari Sage Art, Cheating Death. An S-rank technique that creates non-living bodies that completely replicate the originals down to the smallest detail, including chakra. Can be used through direct contact with the intended sample. Futon, Jusho Kurai, from Japanese, wind element, rising currents. A B-rank technique that creates small gusts of wind capable of repelling projectile weapons, primarily used for defense. Suiton, Akuma Shurikai water element, Dead Sea Demon. A-rank technique. This technique is based mainly on yang chakra, which causes the dark shade of water. This technique summons a snake-like dragon, which is controlled by the one who summoned it. Tazuna woke up early in the morning with Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura, while Naruto stayed at the architect's house, as he had some business to finish. The construction of the bridge was in full swing. The structure was growing before our eyes. Kakashi and his students were on the bridge and monitoring the situation in the area. Everything was calm, even too calm. Kakashi understood that Gato would not stop there, and he needed to be on guard. It was approaching midday. Naruto was still not there, and because of all this time no one attacked them, the ash-haired man did not even notice anyone. A couple of hours later, when the bridge was almost finished, Hatake felt that someone was coming towards them from the forest, and clearly not with good intentions. Soon they appeared at the edge of the bridge. There were about 20 attackers, but only 9 of them were shinobi, the rest were just bandits. And Gato was walking in front of them. 2 students approached Kakashi and prepared for battle, but the advantage in both strength and numbers was on the enemy's side. Sakura looked at the arrivals with a slightly frightened look and turned to the teacher. "Sensei, there are too many of them. We can't handle them alone," said the pink-haired girl. "And where the hell is Naruto?" "I completely agree with her, although you are the strongest jonin in Konoha. But they have a numerical advantage, and even more so they have shinobi," Sasuke said, looking around the crowd. "Naruto left you a scroll. I think you should use it and summon him," suggested the Uchiha. "Yes, you're right, Sasuke," the jonin said and took out a scroll. Opening it, he was about to use the reverse summoning, but at that very moment a clap of thunder sounded throughout the area and a bright yellow flash flashed behind the Konoha members. Everyone turned their gaze back and saw Naruto himself. With a calm gait, Uzumaki walked ahead of his comrades and, looking at the enemy lines, sighed tiredly. "And Zabuza was right, that idiot showed up with his gang right here," Kurama said with a grin in the blonde's subconscious. "Yes. I will try to negotiate with them, but if they do not agree, then we will give them a warm welcome," Uzumaki mentally said to the fox. "And who is this brat?" someone from the crowd asked, and everyone laughed. The Jinchuriki clicked his tongue in disapproval. "Let's do it this way. You leave as amicably as you came, and we won't bother you, me in particular. Deal?" Naruto suggested, which caused even more laughter from the bandits. "Get out of the way and we might not touch you," Gato said, tapping his cane on the bridge. "Naruto can't negotiate with them, you know that yourself," said Kakashi, preparing for battle. The blonde sighed heavily, shook his head, then exhaled loudly and shouted. "I don't have that much time to waste on scum like you. I have a date with a girl tomorrow, and because of you I might be late, which is extremely unacceptable." Summoning technique. On the river, on the side of the bridge, a very loud bang was heard from the smoke that the technique caused. Kurama appeared. Growl loudly, he made everyone almost shit their pants. The Konoha guys are no exception. Everyone's knees shook, some of the gang fell on their butts. They realized who this kid was and who he summoned. Kurama's tails flew up, and he, with a satisfied and proud gait, headed closer to the bridge. After all, they made an indelible impression. Without thinking twice, Naruto jumped on the nine-tailed head and crossing his arms over his chest said, "You have 2 options. The first is to leave the bridge, as well as Tazuna-san and his family alone and leave unharmed. The second is that you don't leave, and my esteemed friend will begin to get to know you better. You have 10 seconds to think. Time has started, Naruto said, waiting for the bandits' reaction. He didn't have to wait long. The bandits quickly came to their senses and ran away, and Gato ran behind them, shouting something at his assistants. The problem is solved, you can continue, said the Jinchuriki, jumping off the fox's head back onto the bridge. Thank you for helping Kurama. Naruto shouted to the nine-tailed. He smiled, although it was not a smile, more like a bloodthirsty grin, and disappeared, and Uzumaki headed towards his friends. That was something, Sasuke said, looking with his saucers at the place where the fox had just been. Sakura stared silently at Naruto. I didn't know you could summon him, Kakashi said, scratching the back of his head, and then squinting his eye, he looked at the blonde. So you have a meeting with Hinata tomorrow? Yes. Stop. How do you know what's wrong with her? Naruto said in confusion, burning a hole in his sensei, and that look made him feel uneasy. Dobe, it's not surprising, after what you did to Hyuga, the whole village already knows, Uchiha said with a sigh. Naruto snorted and turned his gaze to Sensei again. I managed to reproduce that technique approximately, but only partially, somewhere at the first stage, Naruto said in one breath. Will you demonstrate? Kakashi asked, hardly believing that he would succeed. He was strong, but still, only selected people in this clan could use this technique. Senpo, Gasuto Senshi. Senpo, Gasuto Senshi. After Naruto named the technique, a column of black chakra shot up around him like a small tornado, which began to take the shape of ribs around Uzumaki. It was an exact copy of Susanoo at the initial stage. Naruto began to form a bone arm, but when it was half formed, something went wrong and the technique disappeared. Gritting his teeth, the blonde repeated, and this time he succeeded. The bone arm was fully formed, and then the second one. Naruto looked at Kakashi and at the same moment lost control of the technique and laughed out loud, although it didn't really look like laughter, more like a guffaw. And there was something to laugh about. The ash-haired man stood unable to utter a word. He just stared at Uzumaki with his eye and gasped for air like a fish, even though the lower part of his face was covered by a mask, but it was clearly visible. How were you able to use Susanoo? Hatake said, having more or less returned to his normal state. This is not Susanoo. This is a copy of it at the initial stage. Unfortunately, I could not advance further. I simply release Kurama's chakra and give it the correct form of the technique. The fox told me what this technique looks like and I tried to reproduce it. Naruto of course lied about the last part. He knew better than anyone what Susanoo looked like. At that moment, Tazuna approached them and addressed Naruto. Naruto, that was something. Was it really a nine-tailed demon fox? Asked the architect. No, I just used Henjon my summoning because I knew it would work without fail. The blonde decided to keep a secret the fact that the fox was no longer in the cage. Yes, you're right, it worked. Thank you, Naruto. Tazuna-san, approximately how much time will it take to complete the bridge's construction? The Jinchuriki asked. I think we'll finish the construction in 2 days, the bridge builder replied. After thinking for a bit, Naruto decided to speed up the construction so that he could be in Konoha by tomorrow evening. And if we increase the number of workers by about 100 or 200, will we be able to complete it today? Theoretically, yes, but where will we get so many people? It's not a problem, Uzumaki said and folded the cloning seal. Multiple shadow cloning technique. In an instant, 200 copies of Uzumaki were already standing in front of the architect. They are completely at your disposal, Naruto said and walked along the bridge to the architect's house. Tazuna looked at this crowd in shock, but immediately came to his senses and began giving orders to the clones. What about the defense of the bridge? Where are you going? Asked Sakura, watching Kakashi and Sasuke walk away after the blonde. To which Uzumaki, without turning around, said, Sakura, there are 200 of my clones here. Believe me, even if someone tries, they don't have a chance, Naruto said, and the pink-haired girl muttered something under her breath and moved after them. The work was in full swing and by evening the bridge was completely finished. It was named in honor of the blonde, Naruto Bridge. After dinner, Naruto called Sasuke outside, under the pretext that he needed to talk to him. What did you want to talk about? He asked in his Uchiha manner, which really pissed Naruto off. Not here, Naruto said and moved towards a small grove that was located near the architect's house. Sasuke sighed heavily and reluctantly followed him. When they arrived at the place, the blonde performed a couple of seals and put up a barrier. Sasuke looked at him with confusion. So that no one would overhear. So, remember when we introduced ourselves to the teacher, you said that you wanted to kill one person. I take it that was Itachi? Uzumaki said. The Uchiha's eyes flashed with unkindness, and he began to slowly approach the blonde. How do you know that? Sasuke asked, clenching his fist tightly, and his eyes lit up with a Sharingan with 3 tomo. Naruto looked at this and was surprised, but he didn't show it, and sighed sadly and said, That means you don't know anything about the infamous Uchiha clan conspiracy case, the blonde said, looking into Sasuke's eyes. What kind of conspiracy is this? Sasuke shouted slightly, incomprehensibly. Sit down and calm down, the Jinchuriki said, and he, oddly enough, listened to him. Although I'm not sure if I should tell you about this. I want to know about it. Okay, now I'll tell you a not-so-funny story about why the Uchiha clan was destroyed. About 4 years ago, the village elders received information about a military coup that the Uchiha clan was preparing. The goal of the coup was to seize power in the village. In order to prevent a civil war, the elders decided to destroy the Uchiha clan. A stupid move, in my opinion, but unfortunately this can no longer be changed. The ANBU fighter Uchiha Itachi was appointed to carry out the sentence. The execution of the task was supervised by fighters of the Special Forces Unit, ROOT, of ANBU. However, the task was failed, due to the presence of a survivor. Naruto pointed at Sasuke. In connection with this, as well as the death of fighters from ROOT, Itachi received the status of a missing nin and an order to infiltrate the criminal organization Akatsuki, which he actually did. The reason why he did not kill you is simple. Itachi sincerely loves his brother. He did everything to make you, Sasuke, hate him. Itachi wants you to kill him yourself, thus correcting his mistakes, Naruto said in one breath and fixed his gaze on Sasuke, expecting some kind of reaction. Gradually, the Uchiha began to recover from the shock. His eyes expressed pain, hatred, but no longer towards his brother, but towards the elders. So Itachi was just an executor. Who ordered his brother to destroy the clan? Sasuke jumped up and grabbed Naruto by the chest. Sit down and calm down, the Jinchuriki said calmly, but he wasn't even going to listen to him, insisting on his own. Who? I said. Sit down, Uzumaki said in words and looked into the Uchiha's eyes with his Rinnegan. Sasuke felt an incredible weight, as if he was holding a mountain on his shoulders. His legs became weak and he fell to his knees, and at the same moment the weight disappeared, as Uzumaki deactivated the Rinnegan. That's better. Yes, you're right. Itachi is just a hostage of circumstances, Naruto confirmed. The village elders spoke out for the destruction of the clan, Udatain Koharu and Midokado Hamura. The initiator of the idea was the head of the ROOT, Shimura Danzo. The third tried to resist, but as you can see, nothing came of it. I'll destroy you, Sasuke shouted. The 3 tomo began to spin wildly, and soon his Sharingan took the form of a 6-pointed star. Naruto grinned. He didn't expect such a result, that is, that the Uchiha would awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. He just wanted to tell him the truth and that's all, but there were some advantages to awakening him. I understand everything perfectly well, especially since I also have something to take revenge on them for. I'll kill them, Sasuke said angrily. I'll destroy them, every single one of them. Don't you want to make them suffer first? Naruto grinned. With your new Sharingan, you can do it. What are you talking about? Sasuke took a kunai out of his pouch and looked at the reflection. Now he saw that his pupil had taken the shape of a red 6-pointed star, and he looked at Naruto with some surprise. What is this? And this is my friend Manjiki Sharingan, Naruto concluded. Like your brother's. What? Manjiki Sharingan? I've never heard of it. Sasuke was surprised. The Jinchuriki looked at the Uchiha in surprise and asked a question. Are you definitely from the Uchiha clan? Maybe you are the result of some experiment? Sasuke looked at Naruto with incomprehension. Dig around in the clan's archives or somewhere else, maybe you'll dig up something, Uzumaki said, rising from the ground. Do you remember that technique I showed you on the bridge? Sasuke nodded and Naruto continued, "It's a Manjikyu Sharingan technique called Susanoo." "How do you know about her?" "You're not an Uchiha," the owner of the Sharingan said, narrowing his eyes. "Sasuke, I have a bija sealed inside me that is several thousand years old, and believe me, it knows a lot," Naruto said, "and we decided to try to repeat it, but it didn't work out because I don't have the same eyes as you. I told Kakashi about it, but he thought I was crazy, but Kurama and I found a way out of the situation. I release his chakra and give it the necessary shape, but the catch is that I still have weak chakra control for this, and I can't hold the technique for a long time, or form it to the end, no matter how hard I try." "Yes, but you are not such a fool as you pretended to be at the academy. I'll take it as a compliment. And about the elders and Danzo, don't rush yet, everything has its time. Moreover, we don't have any evidence of their guilt yet, and no one will believe our words. We need reliable facts presented in writing, and for now we are powerless." Sasuke reluctantly nodded. "That's good, and now let's go. Tomorrow morning we are heading to the village. We need to rest," Naruto said, and they moved towards the architect's house. Commentary on Chapter 11. Reviews. Chapter 12. Morning came, and the Konoha team was about to head back. Having said goodbye to Tazuna and his family, the shinobi headed to their native village. Almost the entire way, Sasuke thought about yesterday's conversation with Naruto. He did not know whether Uzumaki was lying or telling the truth, but something inside the Uchiha said that the blonde was not lying and could be trusted. A few hours later, they reached the village. Having greeted the guards, who were Izumo and Kotetsu, the team headed straight to the Hokage. Entering the third's office, Kakashi began to write a report on the mission. "Hokage-sama, the mission is accomplished," Hatake reported. Sarutobi looked up from his papers and glanced at the Jonin. "Were there any difficulties?" "Almost," Kakashi said, taking a scroll out of his pouch. "This scroll contains 2 missing nin, Momochi Zabuza and his assistant Haku." The third almost swallowed his pipe from what was said. "Naruto neutralized them," Kakashi continued. "I suggest making him a Jonin. He may be small, but he is developed beyond his years. Show me at least 1 genin who can defeat 2 S-rank renegades," Hatake said, pointing at the blonde. Naruto was quite surprised by this turn of events. "First, he needs to become a Chunin, but that's not a problem. The exam will be in 2 weeks, Sarutobi said, and then, remembering, continued, "Oh, by the way, here are the forms for the exam. You must fill them out if you want to participate. And yes, the team is only allowed in full." The genin took the forms and quickly looked through them. "You may go," said the Hokage, and everyone except Naruto headed towards the exit. Looking at him, Sarutobi asked a question. "Did you want something, Naruto?" The third looked closely at the Jinchuriki. "I have a question for you, esteemed Hokage," Naruto said, his face darkening. "I'm really curious. Who allowed you to hide the truth about my parents from me?" Sarutobi began to gasp for air like a fish thrown ashore. The Hokage was unable to utter a word, and the blonde continued. "I know that Uzumaki Kushina was my mother, and Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, was my father. He was the one who sealed the 9-tailed fox inside me and thought that I would be considered a hero. He was wrong, of course, but it was not his fault. In any case, he certainly did not want his son to be kept from knowing about his parents. I understand that this was done at the insistence of the elders, right?" "Yes, Naruto," the Hokage finally spoke. "According to their orders issued after your parents' death, no one is allowed to tell you that you are the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox, and it was also forbidden to tell you who your parents were. I guess that's why they gave me my mother's last name," Naruto said without emotion. "Yes," Sarutobi hung his head. "But how do you know about this?" "You need to guard your secrets better," Naruto grinned. "All your secret orders are no longer a secret to me. I studied them before graduating from the academy. In search of information about my parents, I read almost all the data from your archive. Around that time, I awakened my Rinnegan. I decided to make myself look like a fool who knows and can't do anything, even you believed in it. Am I right?" Naruto fell silent, letting the third take in what he had said. The Jinchuriki had thought this story out in detail when he was planning the conversation on the way to Konoha. Everything had turned out exactly as planned. And one more thing, Uzumaki began. Sarutobi was already expecting anything, but from what the blonde said, he simply went into a knockout. I need all the information about the Uchiha clan case, Naruto said in a calm voice. I understand that you wanted to know about your parents, and that you are a Jinchuriki. But why do you need information about the destruction of the clan, and how do you know about it? The Hokage said with incomprehension. I already told you. I know, or rather, I assume that the elders and Danzo were involved here too, right? Seeing something like a nod, the blonde continued. Old man, they were allowed too much. First, they hid the truth from me. Then they destroyed an entire clan, although everything could have been resolved peacefully. And what will happen now? It is not the Hokage who runs the village, but these old senile ones. They tarnish the honor of our village with their actions. It's time for them to step down from their post, and not only that, Naruto finished speaking. Sarutobi lowered his head. He understood that Uzumaki was right, and he was partly to blame for what happened. Come on, Grandpa, don't burden yourself unnecessarily, the blonde grinned. I understand everything. Okay, Naruto, I will give you all the information, but later, the Hokage said seriously. And this, about the inheritance that my parents left me. Come by tomorrow evening, I'll prepare everything. Naruto nodded in response and left the office, leaving the third in thought. Leaving the Uzumaki residence, he ran at full speed towards the Hyuga clan's estate. Naruto quickly reached the Hyuga estate, and when he entered the courtyard, he saw Hayashi training Hanabi, Hinata's younger sister. When he saw the blonde, he stopped training and approached Uzumaki. Hello, Naruto, said the head of the Hyuga clan. Hello, Hayashi-sama, the Jinchuriki greeted and asked a question. Is Hinata home? Yes, she'll be out soon, said Hyuga, and after a couple of seconds continued. Maybe we can have a little sparring while she's gone. Wasn't it enough for you last time, Hayashi-sama? Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. You just caught me off guard. Hayashi began to justify himself. Well, yes, taken by surprise, of course, lie more, the nine-tailed one said in his subconscious. Has the rub really decided to talk? So what? Hyuga asked. Naruto made a sly expression and answered. Well, let's do it, just quickly, said the blonde as he walked to the training ground. Naruto decided to finish the fight quickly. For this he had chosen a certain technique that would help him with this. Attack, Naruto, Hayashi said, taking the gentle fist stance. The Jinchuriki publicly sighed and began to fold the seals. The last seal was Tori. Hayashi prepared Kaiten to reflect Naruto's technique, but how did he miscalculate it? Kaiten Uzumaki, Insatanto Mashi. At first, Hyuga didn't understand anything, but then he realized that he couldn't move. At that time, Hinata approached the training ground and sighed heavily when she saw this picture. What did you do? Hayashi asked in surprise when the blonde cancelled the technique. This is the technique of my clan, that is, the Uzumaki clan. It paralyzes the selected target instantly. There is practically no chance to avoid it. Well, unless you are hanging in the air, of course, answered Naruto. Your clan? Hinata asked as she approached them. Uzumaki approached the girl and hugged her. I'll tell you later, the Jinchuriki said in the brunette's ear, and then turned to Hayashi. Hayashi-sama, shall we go? Yes, go. And Naruto, you are responsible for her with your head, said the head of the clan, smiling. Holding hands, the couple headed towards the exit of the estate. Naruto and Hinata slowly walked around Konoha, just the two of them, enjoying each other's company and the literally raging life in the village, despite the fact that it was already evening. Naruto-kun, where are we going? Hinata asked with a smile when she caught his gaze again. We're just taking a walk. And let's not call it kun, just Naruto. Although I have one very beautiful place in mind, Uzumaki answered warmly. Maybe we should go there? The blonde asked, looking tenderly into the girl's eyes. I don't mind, Hyuga said, smiling, and Naruto quickly picked the girl up in his arms, causing her to involuntarily scream, and jumping on the roofs headed towards the exit of the village. Hinata didn't take her eyes off the blonde the whole way. She only broke away from her contemplation when Naruto spoke. Well, here we are, said Uzumaki, putting Hinata on the ground. She was amazed to the depths of her soul, and there was something to be amazed about. In front of them was a small pond, on the bank of which, spreading its branches, which in some places touched the surface of the water, was a blooming sakura. Night butterflies were hovering in the air, circling around the newly blossomed night flowers. All this beauty was complemented by the light of the moon, which already reigned in the cloudless starry sky. "It's so beautiful here, Naruto," Hinata said, enchanted, turning to Uzumaki. The blonde hugged the girl and kissed her tenderly. They looked great against the backdrop of this landscape. "You promised to tell me about the clan," Hinata babbled, moving away from the blonde's lips. "It's not a very interesting story," Naruto said. The girl pouted her lips, exhaling loudly. Uzumaki agreed. Hyuga sat down, leaning her back against the tree, and the blonde in turn laid his head on her lap. Unable to resist the temptation, Hinata began to stroke Naruto's hair. "So, where should I begin?" The Jinchuriki began his story. Yuzushiogakure. Village hidden in the whirlpool. This is a shinobi village from the land of whirlpools. The ninja of this village were known for their sealing techniques Fuinjutsu. Because of this, the shinobi of this village inspired fear in others, which subsequently led to the destruction and annihilation of the village during the war. Those who survived were forced to hide, and eventually they were scattered throughout the world. The people of this village were unusually resilient and hardy, and they also lived for a long time, for which the village received the nickname Village of Longevity. The village was located on an island off the coast of the Land of Fire. The Uzumaki clan lived on the territory of this village. In general, that's all I know. "It's a bit of a sad ending," the girl said. "I'm sorry." "No problem, it was a long time ago," said the blonde, drawing the girl into another kiss. So they sat until late at night, telling interesting stories, the stories of which were interrupted by kisses. Sitting under a tree, Naruto noticed that Hinata was peacefully snoring on his shoulder. Carefully taking her in his arms, the blonde wandered towards the village. Upon arrival at the village, the Jinchuriki moved to Hinata's room. Uzumaki carefully laid her on the bed and quietly kissed the girl on the forehead. And went home. The time before the Chunin exams flew by and Team 7 arrived at the academy to take the exam. It was quite crowded. Naruto chuckled as he saw two tall genin blocking the entrance. There was already quite a crowd in front of them. "Let us through!" Tintin shouted. "We need to pass the exam." "We're trying for all of you," one of them said with a grin and pushed the girl away. "The Chunin exam is very difficult. Even we couldn't pass it 3 times in a row." "Yes, I never thought you were still genin, Izumo," Naruto grinned, catching Tintin. Putting her on her feet, he made a seal, Kai. The sign above the auditorium changed its number from 301 to 201, and the 2 genin disappeared in a puff of smoke. A moment later, the Chunin Izumo and Kotetsu stood in their place. "It seems we've been caught," Izumo muttered to his partner. "That's true." Naruto laughed. Sasuke and Sakura joined in. "Especially considering that room 301 is not on the 2nd floor, but on the 3rd. Team 7 laughed and headed up the stairs, and the disgraced Chunins disappeared. "Naruto, how did you know it was Izumo and Kotetsu?" Sakura asked. The genjutsu was easy to notice, but the transformation technique? "The Rinnegan can do a lot," Naruto replied. "I didn't think they would be put in charge of examining them." A couple of minutes later they came to the room where the exam was to be held. Kakashi, Guy, Kurinai and Asuma were waiting for them in front of the door. "I'm glad you all came here," Kakashi smiled under his mask. "Could it have been different?" Sasuke said. "This exam means a lot," Naruto added. "That's why we are absolutely confident in ourselves," Sakura finished. "You've got some good students, Kakashi." Guy smiled broadly. "But don't think that my guys will lose to them." The team looked at each other and entered the auditorium. It was already filled with genin who had come for the exam. Naruto looked around for familiar faces. So, there stands Gaara with his brother and sister, the sound team, Kabuto, with his team. Further inspection was interrupted by a shout right next to his ear. "Oh, big-headed. Hello?" It was Ino herself. Following her, Choji and Shikamaru entered the auditorium. "Well, hello, Ino Pork," Sakura grinned. "I didn't think you'd have the courage to show up for the exam." "I'm surprised that you came," the blonde replied. Meanwhile, Team 9 entered the office. Niji and Lee took the nearest empty seats, and Tenten looked around and, seeing Naruto, she approached him. There you are, Bikunoichi said, smiling. I wanted to say thank you. You're welcome, Tenten. The blonde smiled back. Okay, I have to go to the team, Tenten said and went to her place. The blonde sat down in his seat, watching Ino and Sakura bicker as Team 8 finally entered the auditorium. Oh, hey guys! Naruto stood up and waved to his friends. Hello, Naruto! Kiba shook his hand, Shino just nodded. At that moment, Hinata approached him. Hello? Hyuga greeted. Uzumaki came closer to her and hugged her around the waist. Hello, dear. Hinata smiled, and a small blush appeared on her cheeks. And this little thing came to take the exam? Said one of the sound guys looking at Hinata. Shut up, Naruto said calmly. She won't leave you wet if she wants to, of course. What are you, her fiancé? The sound engineer grinned. You're a smart one, the blonde replied in the same calm tone. And if you say another word about her, you'll get it. Really? The sound genin said skeptically. Dosu, Kin, let's teach this upstart a lesson. I think the three of us would be too many, said the girl, who had an Otogekyo forehead protector on her forehead. The third sound guy, his face wrapped in bandages, silently rolled up his right sleeve, revealing some strange device on his arm. Sound amplifier. Naruto grinned. He remembered how he used it at the qualifying stage and, moving away from Hinata, quickly made a couple of seals. Futon vacuum. The sound technician's equipment was removed, much to his surprise. At that moment, the examiners appeared in the auditorium. Stop this nonsense! One of them barked. Naruto immediately recognized him as Ibiki Marino. Obeying, everyone went back to their places. The first stage was to gather information. Sasuke used his dojutsu, as did Naruto. Sakura wrote the answers herself, and it was easy for her to answer these questions. So, it's time for the 10th question. Let's introduce a few additional rules. First, you can refuse to answer this question, and then you and your team are kicked out of the exam, but you can take it next time. Second, if you decide to stay, but answer incorrectly, then you will remain genin forever. It's up to you to decide to take the risk now or to take it again in 6 months. If anyone wants to leave, raise your hand. Naruto looked around at those present. Some raised their hands and left the auditorium with their team. I wonder if it's worth making a big deal about the 10th question this time? Naruto wondered. What do you think, Kurama? I don't give a damn, decide for yourself. I'm sleeping, said the fox. How long can you sleep? Naruto was indignant, but there was no answer. Uzumaki sighed and decided to make a speech. Do you think we'll be afraid of a simple question? He began loudly, jumping up from his seat. So, you're saying that if I answer incorrectly, I'll remain a genin forever? Who cares? You can intimidate us as much as you want. A real shinobi isn't afraid to make difficult decisions, and I personally won't back down. That's my ninja way. After this tirade, the blonde sat back down, and the remaining genin in the audience exchanged glances. The blonde's speech had an effect on them. No one else left the audience. So, no one else refuses to answer. Well, okay, I warned you, listen to me carefully. There was a tense silence. You passed, the examiner smiled. Just as Marino began to explain the essence of the 10th question, the window broke and someone flew into it. My name is Mitarashi Anko. I am the examiner of the 2nd stage. Chapter 15. And now it's time for the 2nd stage of the Chunin exam. Everyone who passed the first stage gathered near the Shur no Mori or the Forest of Death. The goal of the stage is to survive in a dangerous forest, accompanied by the seizure of the 2nd scroll in battle from another team. Teams must fight each other for the scrolls, so they are given only 5 days to do this. Each team has to find a team with a different type of scroll to get it. Also, opening the scrolls is prohibited until they arrive at the tower with both scrolls. Otherwise, the participants will be punished and disqualified. If at least one member of the team dies or is unable to continue the test, then this is considered an automatic disqualification of the entire group. After arriving at the tower with both types of scrolls, the team members must open them. After opening, a Chunin appears from the scrolls and informs the team about passing to the next round. Team 7 was talking animatedly with Team 8, or rather only Naruto was talking. I have a suggestion. When they give us the scrolls and we enter the forest of death, we will stick together. The devil knows what could be there. It will be much easier and faster, Uzumaki suggested. Or maybe you're just worried about Hinata? Kiba asked with a grin. Yes, I'm worried, said the blonde. Standing next to him, Hinata blushed a little. But I'm also suggesting this because it will be easier. We can help each other if we meet a strong enemy. Sasuke burst into tears at these words and said quietly, but they heard him. This was said by the one who can lay everyone down here without moving from his spot, Sasuke said with a grin. Team, shut up, Uzumaki shouted irritably, and then asked, so, do you agree? What if we come across different scrolls? For example, we get Earth, and they get Sky, asked Sakura. Elementary, we just need to find the necessary scrolls, the Jinchuriki replied. Naruto is right, it will be better if we are together, Shino said, adjusting his glasses. Okay, Kiba reluctantly agreed. That's great, Naruto said smiling. At that moment, Enko appeared near the gate to the forest of death. Everyone turned their gaze towards her. She quickly ran her eyes, examining the genin who had arrived for the second stage, and licked her lips. Exactly, how could I forget? Today Orochimaru will have to put the curse seal on Sasuke. The blonde replayed that incident in his head. If he succeeds, of course. Naruto was distracted from his thoughts by Midarashi's voice. You will soon find out why it is called the Forest of Death, Enko said intimidatingly, and it worked. Many of the genin felt uneasy from her gaze. Naruto, when we enter the forest, will you let me out? Kurama's voice sounded in the blonde's head. Okay, but don't do anything stupid. The fox snorted in displeasure, but agreed. Uzumaki decided to take revenge on Midarashi for the last time she threw a kunai at him in the second stage. And after thinking about how to attract her attention, he decided to resort to the same method. You'll soon find out why it's called the Forest of Death, Naruto mimicked her in a squeaky voice. Hinata, who was standing to the side, lightly poked him in the side with her elbow and whispered so that only Uzumaki could hear her. What are you doing? Naruto winked at her and stepped forward a little, turning to Enko. You wanted to scare us. You failed, it didn't work. The blonde shouted. Midarashi smiled. It looked creepy. How brave we are, she said calmly, still smiling. Not even a second had passed before a kunai was already flying at Naruto. Uzumaki grinned and leaned slightly to the side to intercept the kunai. As soon as the blonde grabbed it, he turned 180 degrees and sent the kunai back, pouring a considerable amount of chakra into it, which gave it considerable speed. The kunai whistled past the dumbfounded Midarashi and, making a neat hole in the fence, it flew into the depths of the forest. A couple of seconds later, a loud roar was heard from there. Everyone stared at Uzumaki. Yes, they would not want to meet him in the forest. Missed, Naruto said with annoyance. Quickly coming to his senses, Enko began to explain the rules of the second stage, as well as handing out scrolls to the teams and saying the gate numbers. Hinata approached Uzumaki and looking at him asked, a little disapprovingly, "And why did you do it?" Well, the blonde began to come up with an excuse in his head. At that moment Sasuke and Sakura approached them. "Show off," Uchiha said calmly. "You're talking," the Jinchuriki snapped and began to glare at him. It was their turn to receive scrolls. They were lucky. The teams not only got identical scrolls, the two entrances to the forest that were provided to the teams were located next to each other. Exactly at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Enko's scream was heard throughout the area. The second test of the Chunin exams has begun. Chapter 16. The second test of the Chunin exams has begun. All the teams suddenly took off and ran into the depths of the Forest of Death, except for the 7th and 8th. They slowly walked past the fence and moved forward. 10 minutes later, they met Hinata, Kiba, and Shino and began to formulate a plan of action. "What's our plan, Naruto?" Kiba asked. "The plan is simple," We find teams with the necessary scroll and take it. That's all, Uzumaki said calmly, looking at the area. Inuzuka and Uchiha started twitching. Sakura was simply stunned by what was said. But we need a more precise plan of action, Naruto, Hinata said. Relax, everything is under control. If anything happens we will improvise, said the blonde and began to move forward. The others had no choice but to follow him. Naruto, if we don't pass the second stage, I'll bury you, said the dog handler, glaring at the blonde. Agreed, but if we still pass it, then you will eat a bowl of dog food, the Jinchuriki said, shrugging his shoulders. Kiba thought for a bit and said with a grin, Okay, I'll eat it, but only if we go together, that is, our two teams. Okay, Naruto said, already imagining how Inuzuka would devour Akamaru's food. The group of genin had been walking through the forest for an hour. Everything was quiet, no one attacked. Naruto was a little worried about it. Orochimaru could appear at any moment, but not like last time, because the course of events had changed. The others were walking in a slightly relaxed state and the blonde didn't like it very much, but he didn't tell them that. A couple of minutes later Naruto felt some movement ahead. Sasuke and Kiba also noticed it thanks to Akamaru. Hinata, check what's ahead with the Byakugan, Inuzuka said. The girl nodded and made a seal, but Uzumaki stopped her. There is no need for that, the Jinchuriki said, activating the Rinnegan. At that very moment, a huge snake crawled out from behind the bushes, and Hinata and Sakura involuntarily squealed at the sight of it. Definitely a summoning, Kurama said in his subconscious. Yes, you're right. I even have an idea whose it is, Naruto said mentally. Can you handle it yourself or do you need help? Uchiha asked. The blonde just snorted and moved his right leg back and put his right hand out to the side a little. A moment later, a Rasengan had already formed in his hand, on which blades began to appear, accompanied by a loud hum. When you launch it, tilt it 2 degrees to the left. There are 3 genin from the fog, Kurama instructed. I know. The blonde made a small dash forward, launching the technique at the snake. Futon, Raisin Shuriken, Uzumaki called the technique. Not even a second passed before the snake was cut into 2 and disappeared, but the technique did not stop there and continued moving, slightly deviating to the side. At the same moment a small scream was heard from there, which was soon drowned out by the roar of the Raisin Shuriken. In the place where the shinobi heard the scream, a huge dome was formed, from which strong streams of wind departed. Having swept away a couple of hectares of forest, the dome disappeared. The genin stared in shock at Uzumaki, who was rotating the hand that he had used to launch the technique a couple of minutes ago. I think I pulled a muscle, the Jinchuriki said calmly. You hit them pretty hard, Sasuke whistled, looking at where Naruto's technique had recently been raging. Did they at least survive? The brunette asked, turning his gaze to Uzumaki. The hell knows, they should. When I launched the technique, I deflected it a little so that it wouldn't fly straight at my forehead, said the blonde. Let's go see what kind of scroll they have. Otherwise they'll come to their senses and run away. Naruto moved towards where the shinobi were. Hinata ran up to him from the side. What kind of technology was that? The girl asked. Yes, what kind of technique is this? Kiba became interested in the technique. This is a Rasengan, the 4th Hokage's technique, but the Rasengan I used was an improved one. I added wind element to it, Naruto replied. You know elemental techniques? Inuzuka was surprised. Yes, a couple of techniques, Naruto said calmly. Sasuke and Sakura let out a small laugh when Uzumaki said, A couple of techniques. A few minutes later, they found the genin from the fog. Judging by their faces, it was clear that Naruto had scared them off pretty well. At the sight of Uzumaki, one genin came to his senses and took a scroll out of his pouch and threw it to him. They saw what they were capable of, even tested it a little on themselves, and they didn't want to conflict with these shinobi. What luck, the scroll of sky, the Jinchuriki said and nodded to the Miss Shinobi, indicating that it was time for them to leave. Get ready, Kiba, one more scroll and you lose, Naruto said cheerfully without turning to the brown-haired man. You get it first, Inuzuka snorted. The group of genin moved to search for the second similar scroll. So I found you, said the unknown shinobi, standing in the shadow of a tree, looking at the retreating group of genin. Naruto noticed him as soon as he approached them, but said nothing to the others. So they walked a couple of 100 meters more. The shinobi followed them and Uzumaki decided to act. There was no point in waiting any longer. Naruto suddenly jumped up, turned 360 degrees and folded the seals Tori Inumi. Right-tun, Kyo Denatsu. The blonde put his hands forward, and at that very moment lightning flew out of them, from which several small ones were moving away. The sound of the technique was very specific. It was somewhat reminiscent of the grinding of metal. The genin stared at Uzumaki with incomprehension, and then in the direction where the lightning flew. A few seconds after Naruto used the right-tun technique, a shinobi from the land of sound came out from the bushes towards them, smiling strangely. "Here comes our little snake," thought the Jinchuriki. "What are you going to do with him?" Kurama mentally addressed the blonde. "And by the way, you promised to let me out." The nine-tailed was indignant. "Yes, I'll let you out, don't worry. As for him, I have one option, to torture him a little, then seal him, and then we'll think of something," Uzumaki answered. "What brought the great Sannin to the exam?" Naruto asked out loud. Everyone looked at Uzumaki with a slightly uncomprehending look. The Sannin himself looked at the blonde in surprise, licked his lips and asked, "How did you guess that it was me?" The Jinchuriki looked at him seriously. "Firstly, the summoning, that snake that you set upon us. Secondly, you, Orochimaru, have very specific chakra, slippery and nasty, but also a lot of other things that I will keep silent about," answered Naruto. "I see, so what do you intend to do, Jinchuriki?" asked the snake Sannin, but as soon as Uzumaki was about to answer him, his friends interrupted him. "Who is this?" the genins asked almost at once. The only one who remained silent was Uchiha. He knew a little about this man. "This, my friends, is one of the 3 legendary Sannin, who used to be on a team with Jiraiya and Tsunade. Now an S-rank criminal. Orochimaru is one of the legendary Sannin of the Hidden Leaf Village. Out of a lifelong ambition to learn all the secrets in the world, Orochimaru sought to gain immortality so that he could live as long as necessary to fulfill his task. After being caught red-handed while performing immoral experiments on his fellow citizens for the sake of this immortality, Orochimaru fled Konoha in pursuit of his ambitions. That's all, really? Am I missing anything?" Naruto said. This story slightly pissed Orochimaru off. He didn't allow anyone to talk about him like that. Naruto never ceased to amaze the Sannin, shocking him with his next question. "You came for Sasuke, didn't you?" This question shocked not only Orochimaru, but also the Uchiha. "But why does he need Sasuke?" Hinata asked timidly. The others just nodded their heads, making it clear that they wanted to know that too. Let's start with the fact that Orochimaru created the vessel technique, which helps him to prolong his life for his main goal to learn all the techniques of the world. But some techniques cannot work with all the vessels and therefore he is looking for those vessels that have an improved genome. When he was in one organization called Akatsuki, he decided to get the body of Uchiha Itachi, because he is the owner of the Sharingan, but he was exposed and expelled as a traitor, and now, after the first failed attempt to get the power of these eyes, Orochimaru decided to get the body of Sasuke. "Something like that," the Jinchuriki said in a calm voice. "How do you know so much about me, brat?" The snake's anger knew no bounds, but that was what Naruto needed. "But I can't tell you that," the Jinchuriki said, shrugging his shoulders. "I didn't want to kill anyone, but I'll still make an exception." The Sannin's anger knew no bounds. Futon, Kaze no Ha. Huge streams of air flew towards the group of genin, cutting everything in their path. "Weak for a Sannin!" Naruto shouted, making seals, Katan, Akumo no Hano. Uzumaki exhaled a cloud of scarlet flame, which began to take on the shape of the 9-tailed beast's head. Somehow Snake managed to escape the blonde's attack. The Sannin was surprised by the genin's strength, but he still didn't perceive Naruto as a serious threat. And that was his mistake. The Jinchuriki turned to his friends, who were already preparing for battle, but Uzumaki wasn't even going to join them in the fight. "Step back, I can handle this myself," Naruto said calmly, shocking his friends and the girl. "Are you completely crazy? If what you said was true and it was one of those Sannin, then all of us together wouldn't be able to handle him, and you're going to face him alone," Kiba shouted. "Kiba is right, we can't handle him, we need help," Sakura said. Naruto, they are right, you can't handle it alone. He will kill you, and I won't survive that, Hinata said, almost crying. Naruto sighed heavily and walked up to the girl and hugged her. Hinata, don't worry, I'll be fine. I have a plan, just trust me, the blonde said tenderly. The girl nodded and went to Sakura. At that moment Uchiha turned to Naruto. I'll help you, after all, he came for my soul, Sasuke said, looking at Orochimaru with his Sharingan. More precisely, for your body. If you want to help, then together with Kiba take Hinata and Sakura to a safe distance. And keep your eyes open, the exam is in full swing, so no one has cancelled the attack, said the Jinchuriki. Uchiha and Inuzuka reluctantly agreed and nodded to the girls that they should leave, rushed forward. Naruto turned his gaze to the snake Sannin, who in turn grinned and said, Do you think you can defeat me? I don't know about winning, but I can wear him out, Uzumaki said, shrugging his shoulders. Orochimaru looked skeptically at the young shinobi and said with a nasty smile, Tire me out? You won't last a minute if I fight seriously. The Jinchuriki smiled, anticipating a good fight. So, Kurama, are you ready to beat up the great Sannin? Naruto mentally asked the fox. Yes. We beat him up quickly and you let me out for a walk, the nine-tailed one replied, imagining what he would do when he was free. If we don't try, we won't find out. The blonde turned to Orochimaru and began to form seals, futon, Jusho Karai. Strong gusts of wind began to emanate from Uzumaki, which broke the trunks of large trees and tore out small ones by the roots. Not bad, kid, Orochimaru shouted, forming seals, futon, Ashirido. The air currents that flew at the Sannin crashed into some kind of barrier, without causing him any harm. Naruto, he's good with wind, try using that Kekkei Genkai, Kurama suggested. Not now, you know how much chakra this technique takes, Uzumaki said, and then continued. I have an idea. What? The nine-tailed one asked with interest. I won't use the technique you talked about. I'm not going to kill him, just wear him out, so I'll use the path of the gods, wind techniques, and possibly lightning. Naruto answered the Biju's question. The fox didn't ask any more questions. He knew roughly what techniques the blonde wanted to use. You shouldn't underestimate me, Orochimaru, Uzumaki said, looking at the Sannin. I don't see any reason to fight seriously yet, said the snake, sitting on a tree branch. Okay, but I warned you, the blonde said, activating the Rinnegan. Orochimaru looked seriously at Uzumaki. So it wasn't my imagination then, it really was the Rinnegan. But where did that kid get it from? The Sannin thought. Meanwhile, Naruto put his hand forward, towards Orochimaru, and a sadistic smile involuntarily crept onto his face. I warned you. Bansho Tennin, the Sannin, who didn't understand anything, began to be drawn to the Jinchuriki with great force. But Uzumaki decided not to stop there, and quickly began to make seals with one hand. Futon, Kukiatsu. When Orochimaru almost flew close to Naruto, he was immediately thrown back with force and slammed into a tree. The Sannin was shocked by such power. He now understood that he had underestimated the Jinchuriki in vain and paid for it. Now he had another goal. He no longer needed the body of the young Uchiha. His new goal is this Jinchuriki. Orochimaru needs his Rinnegan. God's eyes. You are very strong, I admit it. Now I will fight seriously, Orochimaru said, making a concentration seal. Uzumaki grinned, holding the second scroll of heaven in his hand and addressed the Sannin. Sorry, but it's too late, said the blonde, pointing at something near Orochimaru. He turned his gaze to the place where Naruto was pointing, and realized that he was standing on some kind of seal. All attempts to move from the spot were useless, parts of his body did not obey. Fuin, Rinbo, the Sannin began to quickly get sucked into the seal, and the last thing he heard from Naruto was, see you later. Uzumaki fell to one knee, breathing heavily. He spent a lot of chakra, but it was worth it. Having made a couple of seals, he released the nine-tailed out, which he was not to say happy about. How are you? A nearly 2-meter-tall fox with 5 tails appeared and asked worriedly. It's okay. Kurama, we need to hurry to them, I have a bad feeling. I think someone attacked them, and quite strong, said the blonde, getting to his feet, and I might need your help. The nine-tailed fox nodded in agreement. Uzumaki staggered and almost fell. The fox caught him with its tail. Naruto made a seal with trembling hands and he and Kyubi disappeared in a yellow flash, where the forest was filled with a clap of thunder. They appeared a couple of kilometers from their previous location, and just in time, a little more and something irreparable could have happened. Forgetting about fatigue and the almost complete lack of chakra, Naruto rushed forward. Stop! Shinra Tensei. Note: Torai Inumi, from Japanese, rooster dog snake, hand seals for using jutsu. Raitun, Kyodenatsu, from Japanese, lightning element, high voltage. A shinobi using this technique releases high voltage lightning from his palms, which burns the target upon impact. Futon, Kaze no Ha, from Japanese, wind element, wind blades. The air currents that the shinobi releases when using this technique turn into peculiar blades that can cut through anything. Katan, Akumo no Hano, from Japanese, fire element, demonic flame. When using this technique, Naruto releases a dark red wall of flame, which takes on the head of a fox, that is, Kurama. Futon, Jusho Karai, from Japanese, wind element, ascending currents. The technique creates strong gusts of wind. These gusts can demolish small structures, break and uproot trees. The power of the technique depends on the chakra reserves of the shinobi who used it. Futon Eshiridu, from Japanese, wind element, air shield. A defensive technique. An air dome is formed around the shinobi who used this technique, making him almost invulnerable to various types of techniques. Futon Kukyatsu, from Japanese, wind element, air pressure. When using this technique, a compressed air mass accumulates in front of the shinobi and after using the technique, it is released under enormous pressure, thereby forming a powerful shock wave. Fuin Rinbo, from Japanese, art of seals, confinement. The technique sends the one it was used on. It can also be used on any object, to a spatial pocket, where this person or object will be until it is released. Commentary on Chapter 16. Leave feedback. Chapter 17. They appeared a couple of kilometers from their previous location, and just in time, a little more and something irreparable could have happened. Forgetting about fatigue and the almost complete lack of chakra, Naruto rushed forward. Stop! Shinra Tensei, the blonde shouted, jumping and putting his hand forward. A small shock wave, into which the Jinchuriki poured the rest of his chakra, threw Gaara aside, thereby dispersing his sand tomb. The sand released Hinata and Sakura from its shackles. The girls were not in the best condition. They had many abrasions and cuts. The guys looked even worse. Sasuke had a broken right arm, and a not very deep cut on his back. Kibo and Shino were unconscious. Akamaru showed almost no signs of life. The situation was not the best. They were badly injured, but they must be given credit. Temari and Kankuro were out of action, but Gaara was too tough for them. Kurama, start healing. I'll take care of the one-tailed one. Naruto gave the order and began to accumulate natural energy. Look at yourself, you won't last a minute. Kurama was indignant. Let's leave before he comes to his senses or let me punch him in the face. The nine-tailed one suggested. No! Uzumaki shouted. Get started with treatment. They urgently need medical help, and I will delay him as long as I can. The Jinchuriki said. His eyelids began to acquire an orange pigmentation, the iris turned yellow, and the pupil became rectangular. Looking at Naruto, Kurama reluctantly nodded and, grabbing the shinobi with his tails, moved to a safer place to begin treatment. At that moment, Gaara came out from behind a tree. He was already covered in sand. A second sand paw began to form. Aoki. Knowing that the hermit mode would soon run out, Naruto decided to move to more active actions. The blonde began to increase his speed. The sandstone sand simply could not keep up with him, and he began to miss the blows that Uzumaki delivered with wild force and speed. At this time, Kurama finished treating the genin, and some of them began to come to their senses. As soon as the nine-tailed healed Sasuke's arm, he immediately rushed to his aid. The others, in the person of Sakura and Hinata, wanted to follow him, but the fox stopped them. Stop! I apologize, of course, but you'll only get in their way. Kurama thundered, and then looked at Kiba and Shino. who were looking at him. "What are you hatching for? Have you never seen a fox before?" The nine-tailed fox grinned. "And no, nothing," Kiba said, smiling and waving his hands in front of him. Then his gaze fell on Akamaru lying next to him, and he instantly became serious. "What's wrong with him?" Inuzuka said worriedly. "It's okay, he's just unconscious," Kurama answered, looking at the dog lying peacefully. "Kiba! Help them, that shinobi has gone completely mad," Hinata shouted, pointing at the screaming Gaara, in front of whom Naruto and Sasuke were standing. The dog owner nodded and was about to move to help his friends, but the fox's tail blocked his path. "No, I told you, you'll get in their way, just watch." The nine-tailed one growled, pointing with his other tail in the direction where the battle was taking place. The genins reluctantly obeyed him. "Do you really need someone's help?" Uchiha asked, activating the Sharingan. "Team, now is not the time for idle chatter. I have no chakra, it was used to seal Orochimaru, and the hermit mode just ran out, and if this one keeps transforming like this, then we will be in trouble," Naruto said heavily. "Last time, summoning helped me, but now I don't even have enough chakra for a normal clone dash," Uzumaki thought. "Then let Kurama lend you some chakra," Sasuke suggested. "Naruto, he's right, I can give chakra," the nine-tailed said mentally, to which the Jinchuriki sighed heavily. "You understand what will happen. It will be like that time at training. I will undergo some minor changes," said the blonde, but after thinking about it he finally decided. "To hell with it, there is no choice anyway," said the blonde, closing his eyes. "Hey Naruto, it's not time to sleep." Uzumaki's appearance began to undergo slight changes. Naruto was enveloped in yellow chakra, and in an instant a cloak of the same color appeared on him. The stripes on his cheeks widened slightly, and two small growths similar to horns adorned his forehead. Patterns similar to Hagoromo's appeared on the back of the cloak. Naruto opened his eyes, in which the Rinnegan was already burning, and looked at the Uchiha, whose jaw almost dropped from what he saw. "That's why, team, I don't use Kurama's chakra," the blonde sighed. Those who watched the blonde's metamorphosis from the side were simply stunned by what was happening. At that moment, tons of sand flew at Naruto and Sasuke. Uzumaki put his hand forward and the sand flew in different directions, never reaching them. Naruto looked at Gaara skeptically, but he was once his friend, until that moment, when he betrayed him in the battle with Kagaya. Now the blonde did not see him as his old friend. "It's time to finish with you, you're really annoying me," the Jinchuriki said coldly, which surprised the Uchiha. He had never heard him speak in such a tone. Uzumaki's right palm glowed purple, and he suddenly moved to the sandstone, hitting it in the stomach with this palm. In an instant, all the sand was blown off Gaara's body, literally. He began to lose consciousness and fell off the branch he was sitting on, but Sasuke caught him and lowered him to the ground, to his teammates, and Naruto's appearance returned to its previous state. Looking at the surprised faces of his friends, he turned to Kiba. "Prepare a bowl and dog food," the Jinchuriki shouted cheerfully, showing the second scroll of sky. Commentary on Chapter 17. Leave feedback. Chapter 18. Prepare a bowl and dog food, the Jinchuriki shouted cheerfully, showing the second scroll of sky, seeing which, Inuzuka sighed resignedly. Now he had to eat a whole bowl of food, but there was no choice. An argument is an argument. The others had slightly different thoughts. They were interested in Naruto's external change, but no one dared to ask about it. When the blonde approached his friends, he understood from their looks what they were thinking about, and decided to tell them anyway. "I take it you're interested in my transformation?" the Jinchuriki asked, to which everyone nodded in unison. "Okay, but not here. I want to fight the mad raccoon again when he wakes up. Let's go somewhere far away, where we can make a stop. There I'll tell you everything," said the blonde, giving the scroll to Kiba and turning his gaze to Hinata. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked as he approached her. "Yes, everything is fine," the brunette answered. Uzumaki gestured for them to come to him, and as soon as everyone approached, he made a couple of seals and everyone present, including Kurama, disappeared. They appeared a couple of kilometers away from the tower. Some of them felt a little uneasy from the movement. Kiba and Sakura felt a little nauseous, while the others just swayed from side to side. Smiling, Naruto sat down with Hinata under a tree and decided to wait a little while the others moved away. After a couple of minutes, everyone came to a more or less normal state, and sat down next to Uzumaki, looking at him expectantly. The Jinchuriki sighed, thinking about what to answer them. He couldn't tell the truth, he had to lie about something so that they would believe him. So, first of all, I want to introduce you to someone. Sakura and Sasuke already know him. Haruno and Uchiha nodded and Naruto continued. This is not my summoning as some of you thought, Uzumaki said, pointing at the fox. This is the nine-tailed demon fox. His name is Kurama. Inuzuka and Shino jumped back and started staring at Kurama, who just snorted and lay down to sleep, resting his head on his paws. Hinata pressed herself a little tighter against Naruto. Don't be afraid, he's tame. The nine-tailed growled with displeasure, hearing such words addressed to him, and Naruto, smiling, continued. We're good friends, Kurama won't hurt anyone. He's my mentor and a loyal friend, so calm down and sit down. Kiba slowly returned to his place, looking warily at the fox. To be honest, I myself don't understand why I change when I borrow chakra from Kurama, the blonde said. Maybe it's because of my eyes? Or there's another reason. Okay, it doesn't matter, let's rest a bit and head to the tower, otherwise I'm pretty tired of being here. After resting for a little over half an hour, the genins threw their backpacks over their shoulders and got ready to move towards the tower. Go ahead, we'll catch up with you, Uzumaki said, holding Hinata's hand. The girl looked at him questioningly. Okay, don't be late, Sasuke said, and they set off, leaving Hugo and Uzumaki alone. Well, almost alone, if you don't count the grumpy red ball of fur that was lying nearby and snoring through 2 holes. Did you want something, Naruto? The girl said tenderly, looking into the blonde's eyes. Naruto smiled, but then his face became serious, and he began to tell Hinata his idea. When they caught up with their teams, there were already less than 30 meters left to the tower. The genins slowly walked to the tower and, after standing for a few seconds, went inside. In one of the rooms of this tower sat the second examiner Mitarashi Anko, slowly eating her favorite dango. She was torn away from the delicacy by a knock on the door. Come in, Anko-san, urgent message. The shinobi who entered rattled off. What happened? Did some team manage to get here after all? Anko said, taking a new dango stick from the plate. Almost, not one but 2 teams. Mitarashi dropped her treat at this statement, and turned to the person who entered. What kind of teams? Anko asked seriously, but at the same time interestedly. From Konoha, the 7th and 8th. After opening the scrolls and listening to Irika, the teams went to their rooms, with the exception of Naruto and Hinata. The pair somehow managed to climb onto the roof of the tower. And now they were sitting on the roof, enjoying each other's company, and sweetly cooing about something. A few hours later, the Suna team arrived. Gaara looked very angry, because he had never lost. Little by little, other genin teams started running, the Sound team arrived, then the Konoha team started coming, the 9th and 10th, they looked a little battered. Time flew by, the second stage finally came to an end. Although there were not many teams that passed the second stage, there were still more of them than usual, so it was decided to hold additional battles, in which half of the genin would be eliminated, and the other half would go on to the third stage. All the genin were escorted to a special arena, where the additional battles would now be held. Uzumaki barely watched the battles that were taking place, or rather, he didn't watch them at all. Naruto already knew that Sasuke would advance to the second stage, Sakura and Ino would have a draw. He was waiting for only one fight, thinking whether his plan would justify the hopes he had put into it. He was brought out of his thoughts by the voice of the examiner Gekko Hate, who announced the next fight. Uzumaki Naruto vs Inuzuka Kiba. The Jinchuriki exhaled loudly and jumped over the railing, straight into the arena, and walked slowly to the center, where Kiba and the examiner were already waiting for him. Are you ready? Gekko asked, and seeing affirmative nods from both of them, he gave the signal to begin the fight. Well, Kiba, shall we dance? Naruto said with a grin, to which Inuzuka only smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, but no. I don't have a chance against you, said the dog owner and raised his hand up. I give up. Well, Hate said, coughing then. The winner is Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde sighed heavily and moved towards the team. And at that time, joyful and not so joyful cries were heard from the stands. Having climbed back, Uzumaki leaned his hands on the railing and put his head on them, closed his eyes. But after a while, he heard something that made his heart skip a beat. Hugo Hinata vs. Hugo Niji. Commentary on Chapter 18. Leave your feedback. Chapter 19 Climbing back up, Uzumaki leaned his hands on the railing and laid his head on them, closing his eyes. But after a while, he heard something that made his heart skip a beat. Hugo Hinata vs. Hugo Niji. The examiner said, and the named ones went down to the arena. Naruto turned his gaze to the battlefield. He was very worried about Hinata, since she was weaker than Niji, but she had a few aces up her sleeve. They only managed to learn a couple of techniques, but they should be enough. Flashback. Go ahead, we'll catch up with you, Uzumaki said, holding Hinata's hand. The girl looked at him questioningly. Okay, don't be late, Sasuke said, and they set off, leaving Hugo and Uzumaki alone. Well, almost alone, if you don't count the grumpy red ball of fur that was lying nearby and snoring through 2 holes. Did you want something, Naruto? The girl said tenderly, looking into the blonde's eyes. Naruto smiled, but then his face became serious. Hinata, depending on how many teams pass the second stage, it will be known whether the examiners will appoint additional battles or not. But even if they don't, the final battles are ahead, and there are many strong opponents here, so I want to train you. If you don't mind, Uzumaki said, I don't think you're weak, I'm just afraid for you. I agree. You won't always be able to be around, for example, when I'm on a mission, the girl said, smiling. Naruto hugged Hinata and kissed her. Ahem. Am I disturbing you? The fox said in a mocking tone. Hugo quickly moved away from the blonde and blushed. She forgot that Kurama was next to them. As always, you're right on time, said the Jinchuriki, looking at the 9-tailed beast with a bit of anger. You still have to catch up with yours. You still have time to bask, said the fox, getting up. The rug is torn. Naruto snorted and turned to Hinata. You saw me use the shadow clone technique, right? Hyuga nodded. Great, now try making a clone. The girl made a seal and an exact copy of her appeared next to her. Okay, now listen. Now our clones will go outside the village for training. My clone will show you a couple of techniques that will be very useful to you, Naruto told his plan. But how will I know these techniques if my clone is going to learn them? Hinata asked. This is a shadow clone. After it dissipates, all of its knowledge and skills that it learns will be transferred to you, as well as fatigue, but don't worry about that, the blonde replied. And you, Naruto said, pointing at the 9-tailed beast. Red misunderstanding, you will make sure that Hinata's clone doesn't dissipate prematurely. Who am I? The fox said menacingly, raising his tails. An impudent fox with a bunch of tails, that's who you are. Do you understand what I said? Naruto said with a sigh. Got it, Kurama snorted, approaching the shinobi. Naruto created a clone and walked away with Hinata. At that moment the copies along with the 9-tailed disappeared in a bright flash, and the originals went to catch up with their friends. End flashback. Hinata and Niji stood opposite each other, waiting for the examiner's signal to begin the fight. I never thought that I would have to fight with you, Hinata-sama, Niji said. I didn't expect this either, Niji-Nizan, the girl said, a little frightened. Before we begin the battle, I would like to tell you something, Hinata-sama, the genin said arrogantly. You will not become a good shinobi. Surrender. Hinata couldn't say anything. She was overcome with fear. Hinata! Don't listen to that idiot. Remember what I told you. Believe in yourself. Naruto shouted from the stands. Niji looked at the blonde skeptically, but the girl was a little inspired and looked at her brother with a confident look and said, I am no longer the defenseless girl you still consider me to be. I have changed, and no matter what you say, I will not change my mind. I warned you, Niji said arrogantly. Let's begin. Hate announced the start of the fight. Hinata and Niji activated the Byakugan and took the gentle fist stance. For Naruto, Everything happened in slow motion. The blonde unconsciously activated the Rinnegan. Niji was the first to lose his temper and rushed at Hinata. She tried to avoid his blows, but he still hit her a couple of times, knocking out a couple of tenketsu. Hinata could barely stand on her feet, but she still managed to hit him, as a result of which his right hand did not obey him well. "Hinata! Finish it!" Uzumaki shouted. Hyuga nodded and stood in a stance. Hayashi and Niji looked at her in surprise. "It can't be, this stance. 64 strikes of heaven," Niji said, not believing his eyes. How wrong he was. A second later, he heard something that plunged him into complete shock. 8 trigrams. 128 heavenly blows. Commentary on Chapter 19. Leave your feedback. Chapter 20. 8 trigrams. 128 heavenly strikes. Having named the technique, the girl suddenly disappeared from sight. A few moments later, Hinata was already behind her brother and began to strike one after another with lightning speed, dancing around Niji. And now the technique is almost complete, only a couple of strikes left to strike. Turning 360 degrees, Hinata struck him in the solar plexus with her left palm. 128! A clot of blood flew out of Niji's mouth and flew straight to the opposite wall, creating a large dent there. Silence reigned in the stands. No one could believe that Hinata would be able to defeat her younger brother, because he was considered the genius of the Hyuga clan. Hayashi was shocked. He always considered her a loser. He did not see her as the head of the clan, but this called his opinion of her strength into question. How could she know such a technique? Hayashi thought, looking at his daughter. Not knowing why, he turned his head to the side, and then the head noticed a happy blonde in the stands, and some guesses about this came to his head. Naruto's face lit up with a joyful smile. She had won. He was unspeakably happy about it. A minute later, Hate finally came to his senses and declared the winner of this fight. The winner is Hinata Hyuga. At that moment a wave of congratulations went through the stands, which were addressed to the girl. Hinata stood rooted to the spot, unable to believe what had happened. Uzumaki moved back to the stands with her, and in such a way that no one even noticed. There was Hyuga, and then she disappeared. "You did it! Well done!" the blonde said happily, hugging the girl, although from the side it seemed that he wanted to strangle her. Hinata looked at Uzumaki. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have definitely lost," said the girl, looking into Naruto's eyes. The blonde smiled sincerely and, moving a little closer, kissed the girl tenderly. At this point, the examiner had already announced the participants of the next fight, the last one. They were Gaara and Rock Lee. As last time, he won with difficulty, and the thick-browed one lost. He was carried away from the battlefield on a stretcher, since he was in very serious condition. The additional fights ended and those who passed to the third stage stood in the arena. They were Naruto, Sasuke,